Arise, Solo Leveling Ragnarok, the thrilling sequel to the beloved Solo Leveling series. This time, the spotlight shifts to Sung Suho, the son of Sung Jinwoo, as Suho steps into a world filled with dangerous gates and monstrous foes. He embarks on a journey to uncover his father's legacy and face new, formidable challenges. Dive into this new chapter full of intense battles and captivating adventures that push Suho to the limits of his strength and courage. Let's get started. The story began with an explanation about what the Outer Gods are. They are said to be absolute entities that created many universes since ancient times. They are also known as supreme beings. These supreme beings repeatedly create universes while pursuing eternal life and living it. In that process, many substances, souls, and laws were born. In this endless cycle, the supreme beings, feeling constant boredom, thought of a way to entertain themselves. That was to watch their creations wage war against each other. For the supreme beings, the destruction caused by their creation appeared interesting. Although this meant that those numerous creations had to fight in endless wars, die, and be reborn repeatedly, it was a necessary event to appease the boredom of the supreme beings. While all of this was happening, something suddenly occurred. A supreme being who was watching over the endless wars was killed by its own creation. When other supreme beings from different dimensions learned about this, they gathered in one place to observe the world that had lost its master. The supreme beings apparently didn't care about the death of their kind and the fact that it was killed by its own creation. They all had only one thing on their minds. Whoever gets the ownerless power first would become its master. After that, we move to a scene inside a university. Our protagonist Sung Suho tells his friends that he got into the Korea National University of Arts. His friends stared at him and said in disbelief that he was just lying. They started complaining while one asked how someone as unrefined as him got into an arts university, and another said that he would need to repeat another year. He boastfully said that he was finally free from this hell. Someone interrupted their conversation and sarcastically congratulated Suho because he heard that he got into an arts university. He approached Suho and commented that he didn't think he had that kind of talent, and also asked when he became talented in drawing. Suho called this guy Sungchul, and it seemed like he had been bothering him for a long time. The guy was irritated at him and said that he was not Kim Sungchul. He was Lee Yunchul, to which Suho sarcastically said, "Is that so?" According to Yunchul, because of him, his plan to take over this high school was ruined. Suho agreed with that and added that thanks to him, Yunchul was able to graduate safely. Two female classmates whispered that Lee Yunchul was doing it again. The one with auburn hair said they were about to graduate. So why was he still acting like a child? To which the girl with light brown hair agreed. She also wondered why he was harassing poor Suho, who had lost his parents but was still trying to smile while living. Not long after, the guy suddenly rushed at Suho to deliver a right straight. But in an instant, Suho easily stopped him by kneeing him in the face. He irritably told him to just live peacefully until they graduate. However, Suho seemed surprised by what he saw in Yunchul's appearance. His body seemed to have stiffened there and wasn't shaken by his attack. Yunchul arrogantly asked what that was, and as his fist began to emit an aura, he shouted that what Suho didn't hurt. He prepared to punch again, but now his fist was wrapped in a white aura. He tried to hit Suho, who fortunately managed to dodge it. The force of his punch was able to destroy the lockers he hit, which shocked Suho and their other classmates in the room. Even Yunchul was surprised when he saw that he was able to puncture the locker. His entire body also started to emit an aura, which further confused him and Suho. In the next scene, 2 years passed. Here, we are shown Suho, who is now a second-year student at the university. While walking, he saw some government personnel in front of a gate, and one guy was saying that all lessons scheduled in the main building had been moved to the annex building, so students should go there instead. He added that hunters were currently subjugating monsters, and that everyone should stay away from this area. There was a man in a suit and tie who looked like a member of the Hunters Association asking a gate checker how long it had been since the hunters entered, and he replied that it had been slightly over 8 hours. Since the gate was estimated to be D rank, he thought they would be coming out soon. Because of this, the teacher holding the megaphone decided to tell the people there that non-hunters should leave the vicinity as the situation could become dangerous. Suho bowed his head and thought that it looked like there was another gate. He explained here that 3 years ago, what they called gates started appearing, causing the world to undergo a massive change. These gates were passageways to dungeons, and once a certain amount of time passed, the monsters inside the dungeon would come out and begin killing people. However, people also underwent changes, as if to go against what was happening. Special ability users who could use mana, the Awakened, started to appear. Due to the rapid changes in the world, people thought that the chaos would persist for a long time. An Awakened known as Wu Jinshul created the Hunter Association, gathered the Awakened, and quickly established a job known as Hunters, which ended the chaos faster than expected. Now, the people in the world are divided between Awakened and non-Awakened. In the next scene, we go to Suho's drawing class, and here he is drawing Biru. While this is happening, he explains that there are people in the world who can only get rewards by crawling like an ant. However, there are also others who can get them easily just by grabbing them. In this situation, the ants quickly realize their own limits. Next, while he's explaining, we're shown Suho beaten up while lying among garbage. As Yunshul walks away from him, it's explained that no matter how hard a non-awakened works, they still can't match the difference between them and an E-rank awakened. If the hunters can't close the gates, the world will be destroyed. In other words, if there are no awakened, the non-awakened cannot survive, but the awakened can survive without the non-awakened. Because of this, everyone is grateful towards the hunters. Thanks to them, non-awakened like Suho can live peacefully. But on the other hand, he is also filled with a sense of uneasiness. He's starting to wonder if he's getting too used to not getting what he wants. He also mentioned here his missing parents, the fact that his survival depends on other people, and that time when it seemed like he could do anything. Everything he had suddenly vanished, and a sense of powerlessness filled that void. His mom always said that he resembled his dad, so he wondered how his father would get out of this powerless situation he's in. Because his thoughts deepened, he was surprised when his teacher called him. He commented that he seemed to be focusing intensely now. He also asked him what he was drawing, so he explained that he just drew it based on what he was feeling. His teacher noticed that it looked like an ant and praised him for being creative in drawing it. His teacher also thought it somewhat resembled an ant human, which made him wonder why he drew such a thing. Next, we are shown the image of Biru that he drew. Afterward, we move to outside where the gate is, and here the hunters started coming out from inside it. People cheered when they saw them, and they commented that they looked relaxed, which meant they probably succeeded in their raid. A gate guard called a man Hunter Kim and praised him for a job well done. Kim replied that they successfully completed the dungeon raid, and they also had information that needed to be reported to the Hunter Association. They encountered a new type of monster, a humanoid monster capable of releasing blue flames from their eyes and mouth. They attack using their claws and fangs, but they don't seem to inflict much damage. He said he got scratched by one of them, but nothing happened. Perhaps nothing much would come from that monster, but it was certainly a monster that hadn't been seen since the gates appeared. He was glad that it wasn't a dangerous monster. If that's the case, said the guard, he needed to submit a simple report on what happened during the raid. Unfortunately, what Hunter Kim thought was just light damage from the monster began to release blue flames, and he started to feel a strange sensation in his body. He suddenly dropped his weapons, which confused the guard, while his eyes also began to emit blue flames. As the guard was about to ask him what was wrong, he suddenly lunged at him and bit him, which caught the attention of the other hunters with them. Concern was visible on the faces of those who witnessed this scene, and a female hunter noticed that these blue flames were the same flames from the monsters they saw inside the dungeon. As she was saying this, Hunter Kim went after her and started biting her repeatedly. This caused panic in the area, and people began to run away in extreme fear. It became like a zombie scene when those attacked by Hunter Kim also began to attack and bite others. Suho and his classmates heard the screams coming from outside, so they turned to look and wondered what was happening. When they peered through the window, they saw the horrific scene where people affected by blue flames were attacking civilians around them. One of Suho's classmates nervously commented that there were blue lights coming from their eyes as if they were monsters, and another girl wondered if a dungeon break was happening now. They started shouting and panicking inside the classroom, unable to decide whether to escape or wait for hunters to arrive. An awakened student shouted at their teacher to do something, but the teacher replied that he was only an E rank. On top of the building in front of them, Suho noticed a man emitting a red aura from his body and blue flames from his face. He took a stance and before long, powerfully lunged towards where they were. Suho shouted for his classmates to run, but unfortunately, the infected person had already bitten one of his companions, which brought fear to the faces of those present. Suho also started running to save himself, but his attention was caught by a girl who couldn't run because of fear. She begged him to save her, but he forced himself to continue running and just told her that he would call for hunters. He then thought about why he said he would call hunters when it was basically the same as asking her to die. However, there was nothing a non-awakened like him could do in this situation. He closed his eyes in frustration at being non-awakened and said that even if he blamed his powerlessness, nothing would change, so he just pushed himself to find a way he could help. He remembered his dad again and wondered what Jinwoo would do if he were in his situation. We are shown here that before he left, they looked at each other eye to eye as he turned away. Afterward, we return to the present where the monster is staring at the girl that Suho left behind. Extreme fear and nervousness are visible on the girl's face as she awaits her end. The monster screeched loudly here and began to attack, causing the girl to scream in fear. Fortunately, Suho returned here, and using the fire extinguisher he was carrying, he hit the monster in the face. Here he thought that if his dad were here, this is what he would do. After that, the system started to glitch, and an alert tab appeared saying that Suho had reached all the requirements to complete the secret quest called Courage of the Weak. In the next scene, Suho explained to us that he had a dream a long time ago, a dream that resembled a game. He said that in order to defeat the monsters progressively getting stronger per floor, he leveled up and fought again and again. As monsters became stronger, he, too, needed to get continuously stronger. And so, through the numerous challenges, he finally reached the highest floor. The final boss he encountered there was powerful. Though the boss was his enemy, he said he couldn't help but feel envious and even awed by his power. And for some reason, he added, the identity of the final boss was his dad. Because of that, he thought that it's probably because the image he had of his dad, who was strong and reliable, was reflected in his dream. After that, he wondered how he was able to become that powerful. Next, we go back to the point where he took the fire extinguisher he used to hit the monster in the face. During these moments, he thought that if his dad were in his unbelievable situation, he would also do what he did here, saving a girl who needed help. The monster stepped back when he did that, while he was thinking about what he should do next. He had heard that attacks from an unawakened, who lacks mana, don't work against a magic beast. Because of this, he realized that his charge was somewhat reckless and impulsive. Suddenly, he noticed something around him that widened his eyes, apparently because time had stopped in his surroundings. He was completely surprised by this event, and he was even more shocked when a notice tab appeared in front of him stating that he had completed the requirements to finish the secret quest called Courage of the Weak. Another question appeared asking if he accepted becoming a player since he was now qualified. When he saw this, he immediately remembered that he had seen a situation like this in his dream. He then asked himself if he could fight like he did in his dream. What reason would he have not to accept it in this despairing situation? After thinking for a moment, he accepted the question from the notice tab, and because of that, his surroundings began to brighten. Several more notices started to appear congratulating him because he was now a player, a reward for completing his quest called Blessing. Great spellcaster Kandiru's Blessing with a permanent effect called Longevity, in which all diseases, poisons, and status effects would be healed, and his sleep would explosively increase his regeneration ability. It also told him here that the system would help him, the player, to develop, with a tip that this wasn't a dream and he only had one life, so he should be careful. Next, his status window appeared showing his level, stats, and skills. Because of these, he realized that what he had been thinking from the start was correct. Afterward, a notice informed him that a quest had arrived, and this quest was a tutorial where he needed to defeat the Mist Burn and level up. Following that, time started moving again, and here the system showed the name of the monster he was currently facing as Mistburn with a D rank awakened. He immediately made the girl run away from the scene, and he noticed here the name tags of his opponents, 2 unawakened and 1 hunter who had undergone magic beast transformation. They were rushing towards him, while he was thinking that if he had truly awakened, he would be able to fight them. Before one unawakened mist burn could get close to him, he hit it with the fire extinguisher he was holding. As a follow-up, he dropped that object and prepared to punch. He asked for forgiveness from the transformed human for what he was about to do, and with his punch, he embedded it into the ceiling of the room. Shock was visible on his face when he accomplished this. While he still couldn't believe that he defeated that mist burn with just one punch, the other unawakened began to rush toward him. However, he easily stopped it by giving it a spinning kick to the body, and because of that, he defeated it as well. He leveled up after defeating it and finished one part of his tutorial. The only thing left was to defeat the D-rank awakened mist burn. There was also a notification here that he received a reward for completing the quest, and the system asked him if he wanted to see it. When this appeared, he became certain that he had truly awakened here. He tried to punch the enemy in the face, but to his surprise, it tanked his attack. As a counter, the mist burn clawed him and it hit his chest. He kicked the enemy away and moved back for a moment to look at his wound. He was worried here because he thought he would become a magic beast too, and he was also annoyed because he had just awakened and would immediately turn into something like that. However, due to the effect of his skill called longevity, the harmful status effect he received was immediately removed. He was surprised when the wound he sustained began to heal, and he was speechless because only then did he remember that he had acquired that skill. The mist burn didn't back down and charged at him again, causing both of them to fall to the ground. While the monster was trying to bite and attack him, he thought here that if he was weaker than a D rank that had turned into a magic beast, it only meant that he was an E rank. He was annoyed by this because he had just become awakened and he was already worrying about ranks. He kept trying to hold off the mist burn's lunges while thinking that there must be a way to defeat it. Then he suddenly remembered his reward, so he immediately accepted it. Because of that, he received rewards of stat points +5 and strength stat point +3. His strength stats increased from 11 to 14, and because of that stat gain, he was able to push the mist burn off him. He threw it away, but it quickly recovered. As a follow-up, he stood up from his lying position and delivered a right straight to the enemy's face. However, his damage still wasn't enough, so it managed to claw him again. When he realized that he still couldn't defeat this monster even though his strength had increased, he decided to put all the points he had received into his strength stats, so from 14 it became 19. After that, while beating up the mist burn, he commented on being an awakened who could level up, which he had never heard of before. He said that since ranks are decided upon awakening, and no awakeners became stronger than their ranks. Though he didn't know who determines ranks in the unawakened. But if he had the power to escape that damned structure, he knew he would become strong. With his intense anger at the mist burn, he delivered a solid right straight to its body, which caused the wall they flew through to collapse. They also went through it and ended up in the adjacent room. After that, he followed it with a left to the face, which propelled the monster even further. Next, he caught his breath while making a fist with his hand, and notification tabs began to appear that he had defeated the D-rank awakened mist burn and leveled up 3 times. He sat down in exhaustion because of that while commenting that he had won. He looked at his hand and said that because of what he had received now, he was also an awakened. He felt extreme excitement and happiness here, and while standing up, he thought that seeing how he was currently awakened, he could save the people and solve this crisis. From outside, a man took a stance and quickly ran and jumped toward where Suho was. When Suho peeked to see what the situation was outside the building, he unexpectedly saw a hunter affected by mist burn charging at him. He saw its name tag indicating it was a C-rank awakened mist burn, and before long, the monster's attack landed using the sword it was carrying, which caused the destruction of the room where Suho was located. In the next scene, the city issued an alarm and widespread announcement that there was a dungeon break at the Korea University of Arts. The government requested all civilians inside the area to evacuate. Afterward, several soldiers arrived outside the university carrying war vehicles and heavy machinery, and they created a barrier there to prevent monsters from escaping the area. The man in a suit and tie from before was also here, but now he was also wearing soldier's clothing. He was irritated because people were dying there, but all they could do was stand by and watch. He asked when the hunter sent by the Hunter Association would arrive. A soldier scratched his head, and while looking at a tablet said that it seemed those people were taking their time assigning a hunter of rank B or above. The smoking man wondered why they needed AB rank, and asked wasn't it stated in the info that the gate was only D rank, so the soldier explained that the association was taking into consideration the fact that the hunters had become infected. While looking at the information of the hunter victims, the soldier was concerned that a C-rank hunter named Kim Jong-soo had also been infected there. In the next scene, we return to Suho's situation, and here he sat on the floor after being defeated by the C-rank mist burn from outside. He couldn't believe that the monster was able to jump from a lower floor to where he was. When he got a good look at it being a C-rank mist burn and the weapon it was holding, he realized it was very different from those he had defeated earlier. However, he had leveled up earlier, so he prepared himself here while wondering if he could match it. He didn't expect the speed of this mist burn when it suddenly tried to hit him in the face with a sword, but fortunately, he managed to dodge it. With just one swing, this monster was able to horizontally split the entire room they were standing in. Concern was visible on Suho's face when he saw this, and he commented in his mind that this was intense. The mist burn took a stance again and raised its sword, but as a distraction, Suho threw the fire extinguisher at it. When the monster swung at it, it sliced the fire extinguisher, causing a smoke bomb-like effect in the surroundings. When its eyesight was blocked, he took that chance to escape from the room. He quickly ran away from there while thinking that he had no way to match that kind of monster. And here he realized that there was indeed a reason for the rank split among Awakeners. He also wondered when the hunters would arrive here. He thought that if only he could hold out against this enemy until another hunter arrived, they could do something about it. The mist burn followed him and seemed to grin as it looked to one side, which puzzled him. It turns out that this monster had seen 3 female students who remained on the rooftop of their school. While the 3 were discussing when the hunters would arrive, they were shocked when they saw the mist burn jump high to reach them. Suho was concerned when he saw this, and because he didn't expect it, the 3 poor girls were killed there. He gritted his teeth in anger, and his eyes flashed with fury. Before long, he decided to chase that monster even though he was outmatched because they didn't have time to wait for a hunter. When he reached the rooftop, he immediately kicked the monster in the nape, and he commented that he needed to stop this man. Unfortunately, his attack did nothing to this monster, so it quickly countered with a right slash, which he managed to dodge while dashing backward. He commented here while observing the damage the mist burn was causing around while attacking that just one hit from its attack would finish him. But while observing the collapsed bodies of the girls, he said that he couldn't let it run loose. The monster charged at him again, and in response, he showered it with punches to the body. He coupled this with his speed as he dodged all of the enemy's sword swings while continuing his barrage of attacks. The mist burn seemed annoyed with him, so when he tried to knee it in the face, it suddenly grabbed his right leg and prepared to swing its sword. Because of this, he couldn't dodge, and the monster's swing solidly pierced through Suho's body. The injury was so severe that he also coughed up blood. He was thrown into the roof penthouse, and due to the force of his body hitting the wall, it caused its destruction and made him cough up blood again. The mist burn slowly approached him after that, and his health points appeared in front of him, showing only 1 out of 140 remaining. While coughing, he still commented that he was lucky, and it seemed the system didn't want him to fall here yet. He saw what appeared to be a void as his end gradually approached at the hands of the monster, and before long, this void began to crack. Despite being severely beaten, Suho still stood up and prepared to engage the monster, while what he was seeing gradually shattered. The mist burn finally charged at him quickly, but because even his fatigue was at 99, he couldn't move and just cursed it in frustration. He lost consciousness here, so he began to fall to the ground, and before the enemy's sword could land on him, the sky suddenly cracked, and something that looked like one of Jinwa's shadow army quickly emerged from it. It went directly to where the collapsed Suho was, and fortunately, it managed to cut off the monster's swinging hand before it could touch Suho. Weakly, Suho opened his eyes to peek at what was happening, and when he glimpsed what had saved him, he was puzzled that it looked like an ant. We probably already know who this is, and it's safe to say this is Biru, so let's call him by his name. Biru seemed disappointed in himself because Suho ended up like this just because he was late, and he immediately healed him. The mist burn behind him growled, which made Biru comment that these must be the lowly pests that dared to harm His Highness. In an instant, Biru was able to destroy the entire body of the monster that Suho had struggled to defeat. Afterward, we go to the situation of Suho's drawing teacher, and here he was being attacked by a mist burn carrying a guitar, causing him to scream for someone to help him. To his surprise, Biru also arrived there and quickly eliminated all those infected by the monster-like virus of the mist burn without any difficulty. This scene was like a game of pop the bubble for Biru because of his inherent strength, where in every corner of the school, he was exterminating the monsters. Even the windows were breaking because of the sonic boom he produced with his speed. After eliminating all those infected by the mist burn, Biru released a powerful aura here that reached a large part of the area and caught the attention of the soldiers standing by outside the school. After that, Biru returned to Suho and knelt down in front of him. While showing us the image of him that Suho drew in his class earlier, Biru happily said that it had been quite a while since they last met, and he called him Young Monarch. In the next scene, we go to a point in time when Suho was still a child. Here, he was drawing images of Jinwa's shadow soldiers like Biru and Tusk. While drawing, Biru caught Suho's attention and he smiled from ear to ear. He showed his drawing to Biru, which gave him immense joy. It turns out this was like a memory-type dream as Suho couldn't remember what Biru's name was here. Before long, Suho woke up after being severely beaten by the mist burn, and he was surprised because he woke up in a hospital bed. He was also puzzled because he saw an ant in his dream. After a few moments, his uncle called him, and his tone was extremely worried as he asked what happened and if he was badly hurt. He also said that this couldn't be, and that the world was already in too much disarray, so he would send some awakened bodyguards. He told him that he was okay and not to do that. Next, Suho explained that when he opened his eyes again, 2 days had passed since the chaos occurred. He was watching the news about what happened at Korea University of Arts that day. Suho added that because of the many casualties, this incident became a hot topic in many ways. The discoveries of the mist burn, or the monsters that could infect even hunters and turn them into monsters. The delayed response of the Hunters Association to the incident even though it happened in the middle of the city. And when the hunters arrived there, a mystery greeted them. All the mist burns were already found dead due to something unknown. He saw an interview here of a second-year student of the university who, terrified, said that the monsters just suddenly exploded in front of him. After that, he turned off the television and thought for a while. Before long, he said that as expected, his awakening was not a dream. Moreover, he was also an awakener who grew stronger by leveling up. His status tab was shown to us here, and he was now level 5, with his strength higher than his other stats. Next, he also pointed out the elephant in the room that he was sliced by a C-rank awakened mist burn before, and he wondered how he survived that. Suddenly, someone answered his question that it was because he, Biru, removed those pieces of trash. He was shocked when he heard this, and when he saw Biru's shadow emerging from under his bed. Finally, Biru showed himself to him, and he commented that it had been quite a while since they last met while calling him Young Monarch. Biru even started crying from being so emotional, and happily asked when he had grown up well, and said he couldn't help being overwhelmed by his emotions. When he saw Biru during these times, his memories started coming back as if gathering scattered pieces. Here he remembered that he knew this ant because they had a lot of bonding when he was still a child. This Biru was also one of the dark creatures that stayed by his side. He couldn't help but ask why he had forgotten this ant until now. After that, Biru told him that he crossed dimensions to see him. Suho added to his questions why he lived with those dark creatures when he was a child. He had so many things he was curious about now. He commented while pointing at Biru that more than anything, from what he remembered, he wasn't this small, so Biru explained that it was an effect of consuming a lot of mana while crossing dimensions. Usually, he was dashing and menacing. However, Suho said, the system window said he was just a private grade, which irritated Biru at the system for viewing him, a martial grade, at such a low rank. After that, Suho stood up and asked if it was also because of Biru that he healed. So Biru, while blushing, said that although he didn't look like it, he was a skilled healer. Biru said that his goal for coming here was to release his seal, but he didn't expect that he would unseal it on his own, so he was amazed by him. Suho wondered what he meant by seal, and asked if that seal was related to his dream of fighting in a dungeon. So Biru pointed out to him that he might think it was just a dream, but all of that was actually experienced by him. He was even much stronger when he fought Biru back then. That's what happened even though the great shadow monarch Sung Jinwoo sealed his powers along with his memories, wishing that he would have a normal life. Suho was shocked by what he heard here and exclaimed that he knew it. Biru was related to his dad who left their home, so Biru said that he didn't abandon him, but just went to outer space. Suho then asked what does he mean by that, so Biru started explaining with visual assistance. Jinwoo left to go to outer space, and now he was waging war against the invaders who were trying to conquer the world. Suho seemed unable to believe that his father was protecting the world, so Biru said it was true, and their enemy was Itarim, the gods of outer space. Itarim was sending their apostles to try and invade their world. While Biru was on his way to him, he had already taken down many enemies. The fact that gates and monsters were appearing on Earth was perhaps also an influence of that war. Suho asked if his mother went with him, which confused Biru because she didn't. Suho pointed out that she also disappeared on the day his dad vanished, so he assumed the two were together. When what he heard sank in for Biru, he began to worry. He was extremely anxious about Cha Haeun's disappearance and thought that perhaps Itarim was responsible for it. He was certain that the apostles of Itarim on Earth must have dug an evil trap. Suho asked him if it was because of these bastards called Itarim that his parents couldn't return, which silenced Biru. He also asked if he wanted to see them, to which Suho, trembling with anger and sadness, replied of course because he had been alone for years. If that's the case, said Biru, there was only one way, which caught his attention. The Lord couldn't come to Earth for a long time because of the war, but he, the young monarch, could find and save Haeun after becoming stronger. He gave him a black key and encouraged him to level up. A notice tab appeared here that a quest called Trial of the Shadow had arrived, where he would enter the Shadow Dungeon to prove his worth and unseal the power he had as the child of the great Shadow Monarch. When he held the key, it notified him that it was a Shadow Dungeon key that he could use on his shadow to enter there. Biru instructed him to insert it into his shadow, and when he did this, it began to become a portal, which left him speechless. Biru encouraged him to enter the gate and get all the power that should be his. While looking at this gate, Suho commented in his mind that he still couldn't believe this. The stuff about outer space, war with gods, or the Shadow Monarch was nothing but nonsense. However, if he could see his parents again by becoming stronger, he would do everything he could to level up. Biru stared at him while he was preparing and recalled Jinwoo's order for him to go to Earth and release Suho's seal. He asked him if he meant the seal of the young monarch, to which he agreed and said that maybe the invasion of Itarim had already spread to Earth. He should return the sealed power and memories of Suho and protect the Earth. For the rest, he was allowed to act at his discretion depending on the situation. Because of this, Biru thought in the present that if Jinwoo left the rest to his own judgment, he said, while remembering how Suho looked when he saw him again, that he would stay by his side and guide him in his growth. Before long, they entered the gate, where Biru immediately explained to Suho that this place was the land of the dead, where the living couldn't go without his master's permission. This was the Shadow Dungeon he introduced to Suho, and they observed the appearance of its surroundings. Suho thought to himself that so this is the Shadow Dungeon, and it looked more like a ruined city than a dungeon. But for some reason, he said that the feeling of being here seemed familiar to him. Suddenly, a quest notice appeared that said survive, where he needs to survive for the allotted duration of 4 hours against the denizens of that place. He was stunned by the duration he needed to survive, so Biru immediately told him to always be on guard. The time of suffering was coming, which puzzled him. There was a goblin here that came from a ruined building, and it quickly jumped towards Suho's back. However, due to his quick reaction, he managed to deliver a back kick to its body. He commented here that it surprised him, and when he took a good look at the monster, he saw that it was a goblin scout. He wondered about its name, so Biru said that what a scout means is that there are probably many other enemies nearby. Suho rushed toward the goblin scout and said that if that's the case, he needed to take it down before it could call its allies. Biru became concerned for him and shouted that indeed this type of monster is weak, but he shouldn't be too reckless. When Suho got close to the goblin, he pointed out that its name had no color, which meant it was at the same level as him, or even lower. Before the monster could blow its horn, he hand-chopped its hand. After this, he took its goblin stone axe and used this very weapon to cut the monster's crown. When he defeated the goblin, he pointed to Biru that this is what he's doing and explained that those stronger than him had colored names, which Biru immediately understood. Unfortunately, they didn't notice another goblin, so it managed to send a horn signal to other goblins. Suho was shocked by this and commented that it seemed there was still another scout. Before long, more goblins arrived, and there was one with a colored name, Goblin Centurion, and several of its lackeys called Goblin Decurion, whose names were colorless. He nervously asked Biru if he would help him there, so Biru replied speechlessly that although he really wanted to help him, due to being so far from the monarch, his mana wasn't being replenished, so he needed to preserve as much strength as possible. He added that if he interfered in this fight, the experience Suho would get from this would significantly decrease, to which Suho commented that it seemed what he was saying was that he wouldn't be able to help against these numerous goblins. Before long, the goblin horde charged forward, so Suho prepared himself and said that if that's the case, they should test it. Using his ruler's authority-like skill, he took the goblin stone axe from the head of the goblin he defeated earlier, and with it, he knocked down 3 goblins by throwing it like a boomerang. After that, he commented that so this was the skill written in his status window. It was as if he had an invisible hand now. We were shown here the description of this skill named Ruler's Authority Level 1, and it is an active skill that doesn't require mana. Because of this, Suho can physically affect objects without touching them with his hands. Suddenly, there was a goblin that tried to hit him with a stone arrow in the face, but he managed to catch it. He commented that it seemed he also had to face archer goblins. Next, he posed as if he was going to shoot with a conjured bow, and using the stone arrow he caught, he shot the goblin archer that attacked him. It solidly hit the goblin's head, which immediately took it down. Biru commented in his mind while watching this that Suho's adaptability was impressive. Next, he explained that the young monarch's childhood was like the birth of a legendary hero in mythology. Even when he was just a baby, he was already able to use the ruler's authority that he inherited from the monarch. But that power was made to destroy everything, so it only acted as a hindrance in their peaceful world. However, now, as the apostles of Iterum are invading Earth, Suho's power has begun to shed light on this world. After defeating more goblins, Suho managed to level up. While using his ruler's authority, he noticed here that its weight limit appeared to be around 10 kilograms. Unfortunately, he didn't notice a goblin behind him, so it managed to stab him in the side. This monster grinned, but that quickly disappeared when Suho punched it. Biru was concerned for him, while he immediately examined his wound. Something began to emit an eerie aura behind the goblins that filled them with anxiety and fear. It seems this was because the goblin centurion had decided to join this battle. Due to the stab wounds Suho received, his HP dropped from 190 to 160. He pulled the dagger from his side and thought about how painful it was. However, he said that his wound hurts, but he feels more alive than when he was powerless. While saying this in his mind, he threw the dagger toward the goblin centurion, which also hit other goblins there. It seems the goblin centurion was all talk when it was severely damaged just because of the dagger throw that Suho made. After that, even more goblins rushed at him simultaneously, gradually reducing his HP. But due to his strength and ruler's authority, he was still able to overcome them and take them down one by one. Afterward, he grabbed a machete and rushed toward the goblin centurion. When he got close to it, he received a notification that he had learned the skill Resilience Level 1. Following that, the scene faded to black and was filled with slashing sounds, which ended with 5 level-up notices for Suho. After a few moments, we are shown numerous goblins lying everywhere, and even their leader, the goblin centurion, was no longer alive. It seems Suho had defeated all the enemies there when he decided to sit on the roof of a car and rest. There was also a notification here that the 4 hours were over, so he had completed the quest. Biru began to praise Suho and commented that he was truly amazing. He said he never doubted that he would overcome this trial. Irritated, Suho said that until the end, he really didn't help him. While they were talking, a notice tab suddenly appeared saying that he had received a reward for completing the quest. He chose to look at what he got from it, and because of that, the system showed him that he had received a reward of a rune stone of shadow extraction. He was puzzled by this and asked if rune stone meant that if he used it, he would learn the skill shadow extraction. Biru blushed with excitement while thinking that the young monarch would get that skill. Next, he also remembered that he had acquired a skill called resilience while fighting. It seems he can also acquire skills apart from the level-up system he got when he awakened. We are shown here the description of the resilience skill, where it is a passive skill that doesn't require mana and increases his physical defense by 20%. After that, he jumped off the car and commented that compared to when he was unawakened, he felt like he had become a cheat character here. Biru explained to him that this level-up mechanism was based on the system that the monarch used before. It was a support system designed to ensure his safety while growing. In other words, it was like a scene where he thought he was an unawakened, but in reality, he was born with the strongest shadow silver spoon. Suho was speechless at that and just brushed it off, and afterward, he accepted the reward. Because of that, the runestone of shadow extraction was now in his possession, and the system told him here that he could absorb it by breaking it. He immediately did so, which gave him the skill called shadow extraction. After that, the system showed him the description of this skill, and it was a shadow authority that didn't require mana. It was just like Jinwoo's, where the higher the stats of the opponent, the harder it would be for him to make it a shadow soldier. The number of shadows Suho could extract for now was 3. Suho couldn't believe that he could make shadow soldiers using it. So Biru explained that it was a skill where you could turn corpses of the dead into soldiers like him. Shadow extraction was said to be the essence of the authority that created the current shadow monarch, Sung Jinwoo. Suho then asked if this was a type of necromancy, and thought that if he needed to command soldiers, he would first need to hunt them. So didn't that mean he could only control those weaker than him? He also heard that summon-type skills were not viewed favorably by the hunter industry. Nevertheless, he still tried to use it on the Goblin Centurion, which he could apply it to. When he tried to use it by saying shadow extraction, the system told him to specify a designated command for this shadow extraction skill, which made him complain about how tedious this was. While Suho was thinking, Biru also thought, and before long, excitedly and giddily said that if it was a command, it should be direct. Here, he taught Suho the word that Jinwoo also used to utilize this skill, and that was the word arise. When he tried this on the corpses of goblins, he succeeded and managed to raise 3 Shadow Goblin level 1 with common rank. He commented here that so this was shadow extraction, and it was less impressive than what he expected. The goblins were shocked by what he said, and even Biru was surprised. So he explained that usually, newly extracted shadow soldiers are somewhat weaker compared to when they were alive, while the goblins were saddened by Suho's reaction. He also asked if they became smaller, to which Biru agreed. When he asked how much weaker they became, Biru uncertainly answered just a little bit. Suho disappointedly added that the tab says they disappear within just 1 day, which shocked Biru, and he asked if he didn't have a skill called shadow storage, to which he replied he didn't. Biru was dismayed when he heard this and disappointedly explained that it might be due to his intelligence stat and the level of shadow authority. He also tried to cheer up Suho by saying it was a good skill later on, so Suho told him that he understood that and not to be sad about it. Suddenly, Suho's stomach growled, and it was only then that he realized he hadn't eaten for 2 days. He asked Biru how they could leave that place, to which Biru said he could leave there anytime using the Shadow Dungeon key. If that's the case, then they should eat first, said Suho, and Biru agreed to that. Suho used the Shadow Key, and they left the Shadow Dungeon for now. In the next scene, Suho was thoroughly enjoying his food. While continuously putting food in his mouth, he couldn't believe how delicious hospital food was, while Biru just stared at him. Biru decided to explain to him what he needed to do from now on. He had 3 missions in total. First, protect the Earth against outer space monsters. He asked there if that meant he needed to enter dungeons and hunt monsters. Biru agreed and explained that while hunting monsters, he would level up, and the stronger he became, the safer Earth would be. Second, he needed to find Heian no matter what. Suho asked if there was any way to find his mom. So Biru said that while hunting outer space monsters, he should eventually find a clue. Because of this, Suho realized that either way, he really needed to enter dungeons. And the third mission, said Biru, and a very important one at that, was to recover his power. He couldn't believe he was just a private grade now, and he wanted to show him his true strength. Suho then asked what he needed to recover his power. So Biru explained that he could absorb a portion of the target's magic and knowledge by consuming it. It was an inefficient method before he became a shadow soldier, but he had no other choice now since he couldn't get magic from the monarch. He brushed that off afterward and said he just needed to eat something with magic, which made Suho comment that this also meant entering dungeons. After a few moments, Suho finished eating, so he immediately invited Biru to prepare. However, Biru told him that he first needed to become a licensed hunter to enter dungeons, so they went to the Hunters Association for a magic measurement. This made Suho think that as an awakener who levels up, what rank would he get, and what if he turned out to be an S rank? After that, his magic was measured, and he got the result that his magic was level 46. And because of that, he was an E rank awakener. Afterward, they left the Hunters Association and walked around for a bit. Biru talked to him here and said that he heard that hunters' ranks were decided by their magic levels. He added that it's only obvious that his rank was lower since he focused on increasing his strength stat. However, Suho irritably said that he didn't need to speak like that to comfort him, because it only made what he was feeling worse. He was still disappointed with the state of his shadow authority, and now his rank was added to that. He couldn't help but ask if any ranker like him could really protect the earth. Biru pointed out that he can level up though, to which Suho said that he heard raiding parties rarely hire E and F rank hunters, and at this rate, even just entering a dungeon would be difficult. However, he remembered something here, so he said that perhaps there was another way, which puzzled Biru. In the next scene, he explained to us that in dungeon raids, there's a thorough division of labor. The strike squad raids the dungeon, the hauling team follows them and collects the monster carcasses, and the mining team extracts resources from the dungeons from the backlands. Except for the strike squad, the hauling and mining teams accept even E-rank hunters. In other words, even he, an E-ranker, could enter dungeons. After that, we moved to a scene where he was already part of a mining team for a dungeon raid. He thanked the person next to him here for introducing him to them. He had just awakened, and this person he was talking to was the only awakener he knew. It turns out this was his drawing teacher at the Korean University of Arts, and his name was Lim Dogyan. He was a teaching assistant at the said university in the Fine Arts department, and also an E-rank awakener. While Suho continued mining, he said he was happy to have a senior awakener nearby, and that he could work in dungeons thanks to him. Lim became quiet for a moment, but then suddenly called out to him. He bowed and apologized about the incident at the university, which surprised Suho. He explained that he was the only awakener there, but he got scared and ran away by himself. He added that he was sorry he couldn't do anything there. Suho told him to raise his head and said he was an E-rank awakener just like him. The Hunter Association was advising E-ranks like them to run at full speed when they see a magic beast, so because of that, didn't he just follow the guidelines correctly? Lim was surprised at this and exclaimed, asking if he was really an E-rank, to which Suho agreed and explained that his mana level was only 46, which was even low for an E rank, which further surprised Lim because his mana was even lower than his. Lim thought that was impossible because as far as he knew, he saw Suho fighting a magic beast on the rooftop while he was running away. While looking at Suho now, he also wondered if what he saw there was wrong. He also said it was even more impressive that an E rank attacked a magic beast and survived, to which Biru suddenly interrupted and agreed with Lim while saying that Suho was truly extraordinary. Lim turned to look at him and suddenly screamed in fear that there was a magic beast. Suho was speechless and asked why Biru suddenly appeared there. So Biru explained that right now, Suho was as weak as an ant larva, so he would only be at peace if he stayed by his side to protect him. Lim fearfully asked if he had awakened as a summoner, so Suho replied that it seemed so, to which Lim added that many E-rank hunters don't have skills, so he was lucky. After that, Lim jokingly said that for his information, he had a running skill, which made Suho comment that was why he was so good at running away from trouble, causing Lim to slump down and whine on the side. He immediately apologized to lighten his feelings, while Biru commented that as expected of the young monarch, he had mentally destroyed Lim. While that was happening, Suho glanced at the deeper part of the dungeon and thought this was his first time in a dungeon besides the Shadow Dungeon. He wondered if the strike squad was already hunting monsters inside it. We then went to the situation of the strike squad, and here they were disappointed because the dungeon contained nothing but wolf magic beasts and wolf pelts sold for a low price. One of them said that sometimes these corpses had essence stones, so they had no choice but to work hard. Their leader told them not to let themselves get discouraged, and they couldn't be certain until the end when it came to dungeons. There was a hunter who caught his attention, saying there was something in the side path he saw, so he grinned at their companions and pointed out that he had just said this. They decided to enter there, and before long, they reached a circular platform with ruins. They wondered what they were seeing here and where they were, while one suggested if they should go out first and ask for backup. A hunter's detection skill didn't pick up any magic beasts here, while another said there were no monsters there, so what was the point of this place? One of them said that's what they should find out now. Who knows, there might be a treasure hidden here instead of a boss monster. When they climbed the platform, they saw an eerie sword stuck in an elevated round table. The one who mentioned earlier that there might be treasure there cursed and exclaimed who knew there really was. After that, they were wowed because there was a weapon, and it seemed like they hit the jackpot. One of them said they needed to appraise it first to be sure, but it was clear that its appearance was amazing. Someone there with them also said that treasures like this usually came with traps, so they needed to be careful there. However, there was an arrogant hunter who interrupted and said he would pull it out, which made their leader shout to wait, while calling this man Kim Yongjun. He just said that treasures like this usually have traps, he said, but Yongjun just said that even if there was a trap here, he was AC rank so he could handle it. Karma was swift when, as Yongjun held the handle of the sword, it suddenly glowed with an eerie red light, which surprised him. His mind also suddenly went to a place that looked like a pool of blood and spiked stones surrounding him, which further confused him about what this was. In an instant, the spiked stones suddenly closed, and it appeared to be the mouth of a monster, and the eyes of that monster slowly opened here. After that, Yongjun finally pulled the sword from the stone, so his leader breathed deeply and said it seemed there were no traps there. Nevertheless, the leader still scolded Yongjun to be careful next time. But to their surprise, when Yongjun turned around, his behavior seemed to have changed, and he immediately cut off their leader's head using the sword he obtained. The eyes of their companions widened in shock when they saw this. After that, red aura began to emerge from Yongjun's body, and he said who were they who dared to take the sword of the Monarch of Fangs. After that, it seemed Yongjun was ordered by whatever possessed him to kill the intruders inside the domain of the Monarch of Fangs. Fear was visible on the faces of their fellow hunters when they saw him kill their leader, and before long, he went after them one by one while being repeatedly told by the voice he was hearing to kill. He mercilessly massacred his companions here as if he had gone insane. In the next scene, the other members of the mining team were amazed at Suho's shadow goblins that were mining, wondering if there was really such a summoning skill. Dogyan commented in his mind that he had heard that summoners could only summon 1 or 2 creatures at once, but Suho summoned 3, for if you included the talking ghost. Because of this, he wondered if his power was abnormal. While watching his shadow soldiers mine, Suho thought how inconvenient it was that he could only summon up to 3 and he still needed a corpse to use shadow extraction, but not too bad since he could take and use corpses from the shadow dungeon. It was convenient because they could do manual labor in his stead without complaining. He also told Biru that shadow extraction seemed like a decent skill, just as he said, which left Biru speechless and asked him not to compliment him after ordering them to do miscellaneous tasks. He added that rather than that, he asked if he entered the dungeon to level up, so he explained that it was because an E-rank hunter couldn't enter a dungeon on their own, according to the Hunter Association's rule. He also heard that the measuring device still had many errors since they only recently started dividing hunters into ranks, so he was thinking of getting a reassessment once his mana increased after leveling up. He also asked if Biru remembered their 3rd mission, and he pointed out that they could do it in this place, to which Biru asked if what he was saying was about recovering his power. He reminded him that he said he could recover by eating things with mana, and if that's the case, even the magic stone fragments on the ground had mana. Biru nervously commented not to say what he was thinking. However, he was right in his thinking when Suho said that since he was useless in gathering magic stones, he should just eat the magic stones on the ground, which dismayed him. While eating, Biru suddenly felt something. He immediately got Suho's attention and urgently said that he sensed the presence of a monarch. When Suho heard this, he was surprised and wondered if he was referring to his father, to which Biru shook his head and explained that more than one existence held the rank of monarch. If the monarch he sensed here was his father, his power would have immediately recovered. As he was recalling whose beastly scent he was smelling here, the miners suddenly heard an unsettling sound coming from the deeper part of the dungeon. One wondered what that sound was, while another commented that the source of it was surely where the strike squad went. When they looked carefully inside the dungeon, the gleaming eyes of monsters began to appear. As they emerged from the darkness, they brought fear to them, and it turned out to be a wolf pack of magic beasts. They screamed in fear, asking why those had reached them, and said they should all run. One of them tried to drive away the magic beast by swinging his pickaxe at it, but the monster just bit it and destroyed it in front of him. This man began to cry in fear and asked for help. Fortunately, before the magic beast could get close to him, Suho rushed there and hit its head with a pickaxe. He immediately told them that he would give them time so they should escape from the dungeon. The man ran from here and thanked him while he faced the magic beasts. After that, Suho carefully observed his opponents, and here he saw that these steel-fanged lichens had orange names, which made him think that this probably implied they were at a similar level to the D-rank Mist Burn he fought at Korea University of Arts. He also said he was fully capable of winning here even alone, but he was speechless because he wasn't alone here, and Dog-Yun was still there. However, when he told him that he could escape too, he pointed out to him that he was trying to help everyone evacuate on his own. He added that he wouldn't escape by himself anymore. If that's the case, said Suho, he asked him to help him if he was in danger, while he ordered his goblins through his mind to protect Dog-Yun. After that, he took a weapon from his inventory, and while bringing it out, he thought it would be better to use the goblin weapons he collected from the Shadow Dungeon compared to a pickaxe, while Dog-Yun was shocked again when he saw him produce a weapon and also wondered what kind of summoning skill he had. Next, Suho took a stance and quickly charged at the monsters, where they also rushed at him. One of them tried to bite him, but using his sword, he sliced its mouth horizontally. Dog-Yun's amazement was visible when he saw this, while Suho's goblins were very proud of him. After he killed the lichen, he immediately tried to use shadow extraction on it. 2 more magic beasts rushed at him while he was doing this. Because only 3 was the maximum capacity of his shadow storage for now, one shadow goblin suddenly vanished there, which shocked its companions. He managed to stop the rush of one lichen here, while his shadow lichen bit the other opponent in the neck. Biru commented in his mind, while watching Suho, that he was already accustomed to fighting with shadow authority. While stabbing one beast here, Suho said in his mind that extracting and summoning wasn't using mana, and once he got more mana and increased his extraction number, he might be able to create an army here. If that's the case, he said, they should add a new member to the group. He positioned his dagger and quickly stabbed the steel-fanged lichen in front of him in the mouth. He also used shadow extraction on it, causing another shadow goblin to disappear, which surprised its companions again. The remaining goblin here looked around and began to feel sad because its friends had left it alone. When it heard the notification that Suho had also defeated the remaining steel-fanged lichen, it became even more depressed and started crying, because it knew it would be the next to disappear there. Suho leveled up after that, and he immediately used shadow extraction on another lichen here. While doing this, he was suddenly shouted at by Dog-Yun, which caught his attention. He pointed out that he didn't have E-rank physical abilities, and moreover, he could tame dead magic beasts. Because of this, Suho realized that he had forgotten his facade due to his excitement, so he wondered how he would explain this. He also speechlessly thought that he really was an E-rank, while Dog-Yun was thinking that perhaps he was a false ranker who was intentionally lying about their rank. While Dog-Yun was still going crazy about what Suho really was, a notification suddenly appeared in front of Suho that a new quest had arrived. He needed to defeat the enemies in the vicinity who wanted to kill him, and he had one enemy there. He turned to the deeper part of the dungeon and wondered why he only had one enemy to defeat, because he had just defeated the lichens he saw. He thought if this meant there was another enemy. While he was still thinking, a hunter began to walk out of the darkness, catching their attention. Dog-Yun noticed that this hunter was from the strike squad, and it looked like it was Yongjun who had been possessed by the Monarch of Fangs. Dog-Yun immediately approached him with joy and explained that some magic beasts suddenly appeared there, and as he was about to ask what happened inside, Suho tried to warn him to wait. In an instant, Yongjun began to move. so Suho shouted that it was dangerous to get close there. This hunter quickly swung his sword at the unsuspecting Dogyan, but fortunately, Suho immediately pulled him away from there, so only his glasses were damaged. Suho pulled him closer, after which he immediately ordered his wolf team to attack. They all rushed at Yongjun simultaneously, while Suho began helping Dogyan get out of the dungeon. He was irritated here because there was another hunter who had lost his senses and asked since when it had become a trend for hunters to become magic beasts. He added that the color of this hunter's name, Lycan's Fang possessed, was red. He pointed out here that the redder the name, the more dangerous the monster. He had thoroughly felt how strong a red name was when he was at Korea University of Arts. He also thought that escaping with Dogyan was the reasonable decision here. However, he had something in mind here. He asked Biru if it was correct that this monarch was not like his father, to which Biru explained that although the energy was in that hunter, it was too weak to be called a monarch, but that didn't mean he could fight it in his current state. Suho brought out his inventory again and commented that it was good enough, which worried Biru because he realized what he wanted to do. He pointed out that wasn't the system providing assistance to ensure his growth, and since it had given him a quest, it probably meant he had the potential to win. He brought out his numerous collected weapons here, and added that most importantly, to see his parents, he needed to become stronger as quickly as possible. That was the reason why he would defeat a red name here and grow stronger more quickly. While he was saying this, the Lycan's Fang had already managed to slice his wolf shadows, and it grinned at him while doing so. Using his arsenal of weapons, he took a stance in front of it to prepare to engage. While watching him, Biru commented that even though he faced insurmountable trials time and time again, his young monarch never ran away. Within his still weak form, he could see the monarch inside him. Next, he informed Suho that the true form of his opponent was a sword. If he cut off its arm and separated it from the host, it wouldn't be able to move again, to which Suho responded, "Is that so?" The Lycan's Fang glared at him, and before long, it tried to charge, but it was immediately stopped by his 3 shadow Lycans. One of them managed to bite the hunter's sword, while Suho was amazed that his shadows actually stood up again after he infused them with mana. Biru said that they, the shadow soldiers, basically had astral forms, where as long as he had mana, they could recover no matter what. He also boastfully asked what Suho thought of the power of shadow soldiers. Unfortunately, the Lycan's Fang easily defeated his shadow soldiers again, using just 1 slash and claw to their bodies, which left Suho speechless and asked if that was the power of shadow soldiers that Biru was boasting about, to which he replied it was because Suho's mana was still weak. Suddenly, the Lycan's Fang spoke, surprising Suho, and asked how an insignificant pest like him could use the power of the Shadow Monarch. Suho was puzzled that it could speak, while Biru began to become hostile, while angrily saying how dare it call the blood of the Shadow Monarch an insignificant pest. The Lycan's Fang also seemed to become more energetic when it learned that the blood of the Shadow Monarch was in front of him, and it began to shout to think that they would meet here, an enemy of the Monarch of Fangs. While it was still speaking, Suho already tried to stab it using his ruler's authority, but the enemy easily parried it using its sharp claws. After that, Suho grabbed another weapon, and while moving it, he asked the enemy if they should start this exploratory fight. He sent several weapons toward the Lycan's Fang, but due to its strength and speed, it managed to destroy all of his attacks. Suho commented that as expected from an opponent with a red name, it could easily match such high power. He thought that if that's the case, he needed to win here through quantity. He controlled more weapons in his arsenal here, and sent them one by one to the enemy. Unfortunately, it still had no effect as the Lycan's Fang deflected and broke each one he sent, one by one. While watching this, Biru commented that this was Suho's aptitude for ruler's authority, which he had shown since he was an infant. However, there seemed to be a contradicting factor here. It was shown here that whatever sword Suho gave was easily destroyed by the enemy, using just 1 blow for each one. It roared loudly, which seemed to surprise him, and while he was still raising the dagger he was holding, the enemy just cut it horizontally. He was concerned because in just 1 attack, it was breaking the goblin's weapon, and in response, he dodged around to avoid the attacks it was sending to him. He thought that if this was the situation, wasn't this the same as having no way to fight? While remembering his fight with the D-rank Mistburn, He realized here that even if just one hit him, it would surely be his end. Also, if he prolonged the fight, any chance of winning would slip between his fingers. The Lycan's Fang became irritated with him and asked if he would just continue running here like a coward, and pointed out that if so, the Shadow Monarch who hid behind his shadow soldiers was probably also a coward. Because of that comment, Suho was also irritated and said it was a foul move to trash-talk your opponent's parent. However, in his mind, he was saying that even though it was provoking him, he wasn't confident that he could fight it. He became angry at himself because he thought that if only he were stronger now, he could fight it. We suddenly went back to a point in time where he was asking Biru that if his seal had been released, why hadn't the power he had when he climbed the tower returned to him? Biru explained to him that his power had been sealed since he was an infant. It would be better to think of it as his talent from that time being returned to him. If he had that power, it would surely be more than enough to fight the Iterum. However, that place was neither dream nor reality. It was just a test to see if he could handle his talent. His physical strength was expected to disappear whether he passed the test or not, which made Suho comment that if that's the case, it really was just a game. Biru said that his experience in the tower was by no means useless. He should try to recall his feelings and fighting spirit from those times. After that, we returned to the present, and Suho commented here in his mind that he did remember his feelings from back then. In the tower, he mostly fought using his fist, so he thought here that if he had a gauntlet now, his life would be easier. He remembered what Biru said that they, the shadow soldiers, basically had astral forms, where as long as he had mana, they could recover no matter what. When he thought of that, he commented that now that he was thinking about it, he could change Biru's form to whatever he wanted. Because of what he thought here, he realized something and immediately brought out his two steel-fanged, like in shadows. The Lycan's Fang tried to attack him there because he was repeating his trick again, and it pointed out that didn't he realize that such plans don't work. When he dashed away from here, it immediately rushed at him again, and while preparing to swing its sword at him, it shouted that it would cut his body first. Suho's two shadow soldiers grinned here, and they began to transform. They merged with both of Suho's hands, but unfortunately, the attack of their enemy had landed. The monster smiled because it thought the battle was over, but to its great surprise, something began to push against its sword. It turns out that using his two shadows, Suho made a gauntlet that he used to block the slash of the Lycan's Fang, and he commented that it seemed his acquired steel-fanged Lycans were living up to their names. When he did this, a notice tab appeared that his shadow extraction skill had leveled up, and because it was now level 2, it had gained the additional usage of form change. Using this skill, he could arbitrarily change the forms of shadow soldiers. Next, he deflected the sword of the Lycan's Fang and shouted that using these, hand-to-hand combat was more than possible. He began to shower his opponent with punches, which it matched with slashes. While this was happening, Biru stared at him for a moment and began to tremble because of his turning of shadow soldiers into his weapons. He pointed out that the Shadow Monarch, who infinitely transcends levels, stood in a position to freely control shadows. However, the young monarch had just learned Shadow Authority, which put him at the level of an ant larva that had just hatched. To think that he had already learned the next level of Shadow Authority without anyone teaching him about it was amazing. The combat sense that Suho had shown until now, his aptitude for Ruler's Authority, and now even his use of Shadow Authority. Here he really proudly said that his young monarch was a true prodigy. While he was explaining this, the battle between Suho and the Lycan's Fang continued, where after blocking its slash, he secretly controlled a dagger to attack from behind it. But when his opponent turned to look there, it turned out to be just a diversion, so he could prepare a counterattack. He built momentum here, and using his gauntlets, he showered the Lycan's Fang with solid punches to the body. Because of this, he managed to throw it against a nearby wall, but after just a few moments, it quickly stood up and roared loudly in irritation. However, Suho's attack didn't end here as he quickly rushed toward it while controlling his numerous weapons using Ruler's Authority. When he got close to it, he prepared to swing the axe he was holding, and before long, he simultaneously directed all the weapons he was controlling to the Lycan's Fang's hand, which caused its hand holding the mysterious sword to be cut off. After that, he took a stance here while his eyes glared intensely at his opponent. After defeating Lycan's Fang, Suho admitted to Biru that he was worried about facing Lycan's Fang because of his red name. But, in the end, he wasn't unbeatable after all. Biru said that he never doubted Suho's victory even once. Suho replied that Biru was obviously lying. Even so, Suho was still happy with his harvest from this raid, because of what he learned about a new way of fighting using the conversion of shadows into gauntlets. Next, Suho immediately checked if he had received any rewards just now, and he chose the yes option on the notice given by the system. And the reward Suho received was a rune stone containing the skill Storm Slash. He immediately used the rune stone to learn his new skill, Storm Slash, which was currently only at level 1. This active skill has a mana cost of 50, and it gives the user the ability to imbue their sword with the power of the Howling Wind to attack multiple enemies simultaneously. Suho was delighted to receive a skill as a reward because this was what he wanted most. He also immediately had instinctive knowledge of how to use this skill, so he tried it right away. But to do that, he first needed to equip a sword. Fortunately, the timing was right as Kim Yong-jun's treasure sword had been left on the ground. The consciousness of the monarch of fangs residing inside the treasure sword spoke to itself and expressed a feeling of humiliation because of its defeat at the hands of someone who came from the bloodline of the Shadow Monarch. But the will of the monarch of fangs would not end here so easily, because it still relied on the natural bottomless greed of humans. It hoped that the moment Suho held it by the hilt, Suho would immediately be swallowed whole by his own greed. And when Suho picked it up by the hilt, the color of the treasure sword's aura suddenly changed from red to blue. This surprised the consciousness of the monarch of fangs itself, and Suho suddenly received a notice from the system saying that he had obtained Raken's Fang. Suho was delighted with the appearance of his new sword, especially since it was far better compared to a goblin weapon. In Raken's Fang's mind, he couldn't believe that there existed a human he couldn't dominate, and who even managed to inherit the power of the monarch of fangs. But while Raken's Fang was contemplating this, Suho was just excited to try the new skills he had picked up from Raken's Fang. Suho got great spellcaster Candiaru's blessing, which gave him a healthy and sturdy body. And with it, he also received the permanent effect longevity that provides auto-heal from all diseases, poisons, and status effects. And because of this, there was also an intense regeneration ability boost during his normal sleep. Now that Suho had a sword in hand, he immediately tested his new skill, Storm Slash. This active skill was so powerful that it could release numerous simultaneous slashes surrounding Suho and could destroy rocks and debris. The only problem for Suho was that this new skill quickly depleted his mana, but its destructive power more than makes up for it. And Suho's excitement was clearly visible in his smile. Because of this, Biru mentioned that compared to now, Suho didn't seem as excited when he received the Shadow Extraction skill. Even though in Biru's opinion, the power of Shadow was hundreds of thousands of times more amazing. Suho went to see Lim Dogyeon and was surprised to find him awake and confused by what he had witnessed. He asked what was happening now. Suho said it was a long story, so it would be better for them to talk while walking out of the dungeon. But Dogyeon was extremely shocked when he saw Kim Yong-jun next to him with his right arm cut off. When all the hunters and workers had exited, Suho told Dogyeon that he planned to go back into the dungeon briefly just to check if there were any survivors left inside. Dogyeon agreed, and as he watched Suho enter the gate, he contemplated. As an E-rank with a summoning skill, Suho would surely be just a nobody even among the minor leagues. So he really wondered why Suho was so strong. But Dogyeon still knew that what he was thinking wasn't important right now, because the most important thing at the moment was that the workers and hunters with them had exited safely because they were all rescued by Suho. Suho encountered some steel-fanged Lycans when he returned inside the dungeon, and using his shadow gauntlets, he effectively destroyed the mouths and teeth of his enemies with each punch. According to Suho, there were still many wolf-type magic beasts remaining inside the dungeon. Biru said that all of these were worth experience points, so Suho shouldn't waste them. Then, Suho suddenly asked Raken's Fang. He asked why its attack stat suddenly dropped. Raken's Fang responded and asked Suho if he looked like someone who would cooperate with a blood relative of the Shadow Monarch. These were the current stats that Raken's Fang gave to Suho. It gave only a tiny additional attack stat. Biru mocked one of Raken's Fang's abilities that only works on targets weaker than itself. But Raken's Fang countered Biru's opinion and said his ability wasn't shameful because no hunter wanted to target prey stronger than himself. But Biru gave an example countering what Rakan's Fang said, because Suho himself managed to defeat him even though Suho was weaker than him at that time. Rakan's Fang had nothing to say to this. While listening to the two argue, Suho thought how chaotic it was to have a talking insect and a talking sword as companions. Then Suho carefully looked at a cart full of magic crystals left behind by their mining team because of the accident that had happened. And next, Suho went to the deeper section of the dungeon where the pedestal from which Rakan's Fang originated could be seen. Suho saw that some of the strongest hunters of their hunting team had died here. Suho was saddened by this, as was Biru, who confirmed that they were indeed dead. Rakan's Fang suddenly shared an opinion, saying that he killed them only because of their intrusion into the sanctuary of the monarch of fangs that he was guarding. Then Suho suddenly gripped Rakan's Fang tightly by the hilt and told him to be quiet for now. And simultaneously, Suho thrust Rakan's Fang deep into the floor. When Suho checked the status of a corpse, the system told him that he could extract a shadow from it. Suho was puzzled by this because he didn't expect that if he wanted to, he could extract a shadow soldier from a person. Biru confirmed this to him and said he could turn any type of corpse into a shadow soldier. Suho reluctantly stretched forth his hand towards the human corpse, but in the end, he didn't extract a shadow from it and just carried the corpses to one side. Biru was puzzled by Suho's decision and asked. Suho told Biru his reason why he didn't want to do this. If he made people fight after they died, it was like giving them another punishment. Biru and Rakan's Fang were speechless at what Suho said. Suho emptied the cart where the magic crystals had been placed so he could put the human corpses there. Next, Suho asked Biru if it was correct that the place where they were now was a sanctuary of a monarch. Biru confirmed this. Then, Suho asked what the monarchs really were because all he knew was that his father was a monarch. Suho also asked if they were connected to Itarim. Biru explained that Itarim was the current enemy of Suho's father, and the monarchs were his previous enemies. There were a total of 9 monarchs, including the shadow monarch, Sung Jinwoo. He was the king of the dead. Secondly, the king of beasts, the monarch of fangs. Thirdly, the queen of insects, the monarch of plagues. Fourthly, the king of monstrous humanoids, the monarch of the iron body. Fifth, Baron, the king of demons, the monarch of white flames. Sixth, the king of giants, the monarch of the beginning. Seventh, the king of snow folk, the monarch of frost. Eighth, the king of demonic specters, the monarch of transfiguration. And the ninth, the king of berserk dragons, the monarch of destruction. Suho's reaction couldn't be described when Biru told him that the power of the monarchs was beyond comprehension. But during the time when the monarchs invaded Earth, they all perished at the hands of the Shadow Monarch. Rakan's Fang suddenly spoke and said that the Monarch of Shadows was indeed his enemy, who killed his master, the Monarch of Fangs. Then, Rakan's Fang expressed hatred and anger and said that if his current strength wasn't tarnished, he would have already ripped Suho into pieces and fed him to the wolves. Suho told him that he understood how he felt. Just as Sung Jinwoo fought against other monarchs to protect the earth, Rakan's Fang also just wanted to protect this sanctuary from invaders. But there was one thing that bothered Suho, and that was Rakan's Fang's notion that he wanted to fight Suho just because he was a blood relative of the Shadow Monarch. Suho asked if it wasn't a stupid move to act hostile towards his father who defeated the Monarch of Fangs, especially since Rakan's Fang's mission was to protect this place. This question greatly surprised Rakan's Fang. Suho explained that he wanted to reunite with his mother and father, whom he hadn't been able to meet yet because of the outer world invaders. And to reach that goal, Suho would do everything and obtain power from any possible power source. When Itarim invaded their world, even the sanctuary of the Monarch of Fangs wouldn't escape the coming chaos. So Suho said he would help Rakan's Fang protect this place if he helped him back. Rakan's Fang seemed to think deeply about this. He looked carefully at Suho and contemplated whether he should really cooperate with a blood relative of the Shadow Monarch. Suho pulled out Rakan's Fang and asked what his opinion was about forming a united front of Shadow and Fang. The next day, outside the dungeon inside O's Coffee, 2 reporters were asking for details from a person about the full strike squad wipeout that occurred in the D-rank dungeon yesterday. and the man they were getting information from was none other than Lim Dogyan, one of the survivors. He was very cooperative with the reporters and said he would tell them everything. He knew that even though Suho was just an E-rank hunter, how he was treated in the industry would still improve if he gained recognition. Dogyan's attitude and intentions here were good. He just wanted to repay Suho for saving his life. That night, an article about this immediately appeared on the internet. The headline was about an E-rank hunter who single-handedly rescued hunters from a dungeon. This article included exclusive interviews from witnesses and survivors who were personally saved by Suho. Meanwhile, inside a guild office, a team manager was asking his team if it wasn't time for them to pick some porters. This was the Black Tortoise Guild Management Team number 2. An employee agreed, saying their pickup team really wanted to get reinforcements. And the solution he presented was to hire more E-rank hunters. The manager sent the employee a candidate and asked what his opinion was about it. Now, we learned that this manager's name is Lee Young-ho. The employee carefully read what Young-ho sent him, an online article about Suho. Then he was extremely surprised that the hero in this article was only an E-rank hunter. Young-ho said that if they managed to get this E-rank hunter for a big guild like theirs, it would surely be a killer headline in the news. A hero rising from E-rank. This was a very enticing headline, so team number 2 immediately decided to contact Suho. After a while, the employee suddenly slammed his phone on the table. Young-ho stood up in reaction and asked if Suho had replied to their messages. Young-ho was confident that Suho would like their job offer from the Black Tortoise Guild, but the employee responded reluctantly. Young-ho couldn't believe it when he learned that Suho had declined their offer. Young-ho asked the employee what sense it made for an E-rank hunter to decline an offer from a big guild like theirs. The employee explained that Suho's reason was that he had no plans to join any guild. Young-ho shouted loudly and asked if Suho thought he was an S-rank hunter who didn't need a guild. The employee just gave an awkward smile and said Suho might call them back sooner or later. According to him, he would soon realize that it was unreasonable for a hunter not to join a guild. Meanwhile, inside Suho's residence, he and Biru were focused on the phone screen. Suho was overwhelmed by the number of offers he was receiving from various guilds after returning from the dungeon. Biru said it seemed many wanted to acquire Suho's talent, but Suho said he was only receiving collector jobs and porter job offers. He just wondered why so many were suddenly contacting him. He didn't know that Lim Dogyan was the reason why. The exhausted Suho just sat on the couch and said that joining a guild would only be a hindrance to his growth and leveling up, so he didn't need it. Then, he quickly dismissed the idea in his mind and turned to the left to talk to Rakken's Fang. He asked if it wanted to continue their interrupted conversation. This conversation was their talk that happened inside the dungeon, where Suho proposed forming a united front of Shadow and Fang. Apparently, Rakken's Fang still hadn't answered Suho about this. It was puzzled by what Suho had and why it was so easy for him to say something absurd. But Rakken's Fang still managed to consider this proposal because of the possibilities that their alliance could yield. In response, Rakken's Fang first asked for one condition. It requested that Suho first bring it to another sanctuary of the Monarch of Fangs. That's what happened inside the dungeon. So now, Suho asked if it knew how to go to the sanctuary it was referring to. Rakken's Fang answered that he could find the location of any sanctuary of the Monarch of Fangs no matter how far it was. It felt now that the gate leading to the sanctuary had disappeared, and in human words, what they call a dungeon break had already occurred. Suho understood this and said that the sanctuary it was referring to might have become a field-type dungeon. This is a field-type dungeon. It's a land that became deserted because of a dungeon break that happens to an abandoned gate inhabited by monsters. Suho first sent a message to his uncle saying not to worry about him if he didn't contact him for some time, because he would just be going out for a moment. That night, along with Biru and Rakken's Fang, Suho prepared to leave, carrying his duffel bag. They were now going to the place where the sanctuary was, and they would find it in the middle of the mountains, inside an area where the path was blocked by a military-style gate. Suho fearfully asked Rakken's Fang if he was sure the sanctuary was inside. It said yes. Suho said he would have difficulty here, because the place they were entering was occupied by a hunter guild, and outsiders were clearly prohibited. Suho did a quick search online and learned that trespassing on private property was illegal. Suho also learned that the Hyena Guild was made for gangsters, so there were probably many ruffians inside this property. Biru told Suho that instead of listening to the small creature, it would be better for him to level up first and get stronger. But Biru was surprised when he noticed that something strange was happening to Suho. He asked him what he was doing, but Suho just said that he should prepare to enter. Biru asked what they would do about the hyena guild, but Suho just said that there's a way for everything. And using the ruler's authority, Suho crushed the CCTV camera at the gate. Suho did this so the hyena guild wouldn't have any evidence that they had trespassed. Biru commented that Suho resembled his father in his actions without hesitation. Suho ran inside with the two, but suddenly he walked and asked if it was normal for there to be a lot of fog inside a field-type dungeon. Biru explained that fog was a type of magic from outer space. It forced the dimensional barrier to break and generate rifts within the world. Rakken's Fang explained that because of this fog, the sanctuary he originated from wandered through the rift and ended up connected to Earth. Beings from outer space continued to drill a large hole in our dimension to send troops. And this was because the more magic power they have, the more they are affected by dimensional movement. Just like Rakken's Fang himself. Suho's understanding of this was that it would take longer for stronger enemies to reach them. And because of this, Suho just became excited about what they were going to do. Suho's idea was that he just needed to continue to level up. And while thinking about this, it was also the perfect timing as his new monster opponents began to appear. There were baboon-like monsters called Razor-Clawed Briga, and there were also panther-like monsters called Black Shadow Raisin. Rakken's Fang also seemed excited and said it was time to show his power. Suho was pleased with this and said it had guts after all, but it was suddenly surprised when Suho told it that he had no plans to use it as a weapon. This was because Suho had already decided what his preferred fighting style would be. So he charged at his enemies and delivered a powerful uppercut to a raisin. This fighting style was based on the basics familiar to him from what he experienced in the tutorial. Suho also actively used the ruler's authority in his fighting, and his utilization of it was very effective, especially as a mid to long-range support skill. Next, he also used Rakken's Fang to confuse his enemies with his combinations. And using Storm Slash, the Brigas were thrown into the air and received many slashes to their bodies. And next, using Shadow Extraction, Suho obtained various kinds of tools. This was his new fighting style. Biru blushed because he was so proud of Suho. Rakken's Fang was equally impressed with the display of power from someone who came from the bloodline of the Shadow Monarch. More enemies meant a longer fight, and Suho grew even stronger using the enemies he killed. At this rate, they would lose the war. After the Brigas and Raisins died, Suho extracted their shadows. Now, Suho could handle up to 5 shadow soldiers after he put points into his intelligence stats. Suho suddenly hit Biru on the head when he said that the number of his shadows couldn't be compared to the tens of millions of soldiers his father had. After a while, they reached a location near the sanctuary. According to Rakken's Fang, the gate entering the sanctuary was here inside the area of this facility. Suho was disappointed because there were still people here even though it was very late. Suho just wondered why they were here when the better time to subjugate magic beasts was during the morning and afternoon. Then, a cargo truck suddenly arrived and the staff opened the gate to enter the facility. When the truck stopped, Suho was shocked to see the cargo it carried. The contents of this truck were kidnapped people, and they were immediately being harassed by members of the Hyena Guild. Suho asked Biru if what he was seeing was indeed a human trafficking scenario, and Biru agreed. Biru immediately gave a warning to Suho and reminded him that they were trespassing now, so it wasn't wise for them to take action. But before Biru could finish speaking, he was surprised that Suho was no longer beside him, and he and Rakken's Fang saw Suho already running quickly towards the facility. Biru remembered that Suho's father was a violent crimes detective and his grandfather was a legendary firefighter. Suho grew up watching his father and grandfather being heroes, so it wasn't surprising that like the two of them, Suho also often just charged in and acted to fight against evil people who oppressed the innocent. They couldn't just let injustice happen, and this was clearly visible on Suho's face as he delivered a diving kick to a kidnapper. Suho managed to hit the ponytailed kidnapper in the cheek, and the kidnapper released the woman he was harassing. The kick directly hit the cheek, and Biru just scratched his head at what happened. Rakken's Fang and Suho's 2 shadows also showed concern. The other ruffians present were also shocked by what happened. The impact was so strong that the ponytailed kidnapper slammed hard into the ground, even breaking the stone floor. Next, Suho glared at the other ruffians. But when one ruffian holding an axe asked him who he was, Suho suddenly panicked because his body had just acted on its own. Suho remembered that invading another guild's territory was illegal, so he panicked in his mind and didn't know what he should do. But for some reason, Suho suddenly stopped as if he realized something. Then, he summoned a Raisin Shadow Soldier and transformed it into an eye mask to prevent the enemies from recognizing him. Next, he asked the Hyena Guild bastards what and who they were to kidnap and endanger people. But the axe-wielding ruffian just asked him back who he was. He was very angry because aside from trespassing, Suho had also attacked them inside their territory. Because of this, he asked Suho if he really wanted to die. So he sent 3 guild members to attack Suho. The assassin-type hunter attacked first, but Suho easily dodged all the thrusts coming from him. Suho remembered that D rank was the average rank of Hyena Guild members. So, while preparing to counterpunch, he thought that he should conserve his strength, just in case. While holding back, Suho's punch still managed to throw the assassin-type hunter who had charged him first. Next, he had to face the brawler-type hunter and fire fist-style hunter simultaneously. But it was too late for the 2 hunters to react because they didn't immediately notice that one of their companions had already flown through them, and with such force that he crashed into the axe-wielding ruffian behind them. But because they had frozen in place, they just watched Suho flying towards them with a powerful and smoking kick. Suho hit both of them with 1 kick each to the middle of their faces. And Biru watched this entire one-sided fight. Biru acknowledged that Suho's power had grown to the point where he could dominate over D-rank awakeners. Biru was deeply moved by this, while Suho was still wondering why he found that fight so easy. Looking at Suho's status window, we can see that he is now level 16 and has a large HP boost and strength stat. After Suho rounded up and bound the 6 ruffians with rope, Biru praised him for his very clean disposal of the enemies. The saved victims thanked Suho and asked him if he was a hunter from the Hunter Association. Suho pretended that was the case. Next, Suho told the 3 that he would take care of this, so they should escape to safety. The 3 were pleased with what they heard. After this, Suho wondered again what the Hyena Guild's purpose was in kidnapping people. And Rakken's Fang suddenly said something to Suho. It said it felt something. Suho asked what it was. Rakken's Fang answered and said that the reason why they came here was inside this warehouse. So, Suho lifted the garage door of the warehouse and the 3 of them entered. Suho was shocked to see the cages here and chains where people were imprisoned and seemed to be experimented on using injections and drugs. Then, Biru suddenly spoke and told Suho that he felt a vague energy. And as they approached one of the cages, they saw a puppy imprisoned and chained inside it. Suho just asked what the Hyena Guild was doing here. Following this, Rakken's Fang spoke and said this was not an ordinary puppy. In fact, this young wolf pup was the actual descendant of the King of Beasts, the Monarch of Fangs. Suho was surprised to learn this. Rakken's Fang explained that at the time when the monarchs were defeated in the war against Sung Jinwoo, the Monarch of Fangs gave his surviving descendant a guard so it could evacuate to the sanctuary. The late Monarch of Fangs believed that as long as his bloodline survived, a successor monarch would be born. But the truth was, it wasn't important for the late monarch that another Monarch of Fangs would be born. He just really wanted to save his bloodline. Suho destroyed the chains and cage of the wolf pup and carried it like a baby. Biru confirmed that he felt a vague Monarch of Fangs type of energy from the wolf pup, but it was very weak and would surely die here if they left it. So, Biru asked what Suho planned to do with it. But before Suho could answer, the 2 suddenly heard a terrifying voice from the warehouse gate. The voice said that because everyone outside had been knocked out, he thought he would see many trespassers, but there was only one. Suho suddenly became stressed and quickly put on his shadow eye mask again. But he was shocked to find that his opponent now was a big red monster. It said that the Hyena Guild bastards were very useless and humans really couldn't be trusted. Rakken's Fang was surprised to see that Brokey, the monster, was still alive. Suho wondered why Rakken's Fang knew him. Rakken's Fang explained that this monster was the very guard of the descendant he mentioned earlier. Brokey greeted Rakken's Fang back because he also didn't know previously that he was still alive. Raken's fang released a menacing aura while asking Brokey if he had forgotten his duty to protect the descendant of the monarch of fangs. So, he asked Brokey what he had been doing and why he had allowed the descendant to be injured this badly. But Brokey ignored Raken's fang's questions and just became angry at Suho and quickly approached him. Brokey was furiously asking Suho why he was holding his possession. Suho was nervous about how fast it moved, and we can see that Brokey tried to snatch the wolf pup from Suho's hands. But the situation escalated very quickly, and after Brokey snatched the wolf pup, he immediately attacked Suho, who quickly reacted to defend himself. But Brokey's attack was so strong that it sent Suho flying out of the warehouse until he crashed into some metal trailers. Biru quickly went to Suho while extremely worried. The warehouse had a hole, and the ground and 3 trailers were destroyed due to the impact's force. Biru asked Suho if he was okay, and Suho said this was the most painful hit he had felt from the recent hits he had received. Biru was worried because he saw Suho's head bleeding, but Suho told Biru not to shout because his hearing still hurt. And because of what happened, Suho's resilience skill suddenly leveled up and increased from 20% to 40% his physical defense buff. Biru told Suho that he had now figured out where the vague energy he felt earlier was coming from. And Suho was surprised when Biru said it was from Iterum energy that came from their enemy. Brokey was now holding the wolf pup tightly, while Raken's fang was lying on the floor and asking Brokey if he knew what he was doing to the monarch's descendant. He also asked Brokey if he knew how he managed to maintain this amount of power even though he had lost the sanctuary. Brokey answered that according to the rule of survival of the fittest, the survival of the weak depended on the strong, and because of the law of nature, the weak served as nutrition for the strong. And even though the wolf pup was very weak, it still came from the family of the monarch of fangs, so it could serve as an optimal source of nutrition. Brokey admitted to Raken's fang that he had been consuming the power of the descendant of the monarch of fangs for a long time by periodically drinking its blood. While saying this, Brokey was already choking Raken's fang, and with a very evil aura, he said he would kill Raken's fang. He mocked Raken's fang because he couldn't do anything as a half-blood. While Brokey was saying that Raken's death was proof of weakness, we can see Suho's hand preparing to use ruler's authority. And using this skill, Suho managed to force Brokey to release the wolf pup. Suho's move had enough strength to injure Brokey's arm, who was now very angry. Biru successfully caught the wolf pup and immediately ran away with it from the action. Next, Suho used ruler's authority again to get Raken's fang from under Brokey, so he could equip it against Brokey himself. Raken's fang mentioned Suho's name, and Suho said it was good timing that Raken's fang was now extremely angry at Brokey. Now they both had a grudge against him. So this was the first official alliance between Shadows and Fangs. This was the first clue Suho had obtained about Iterum. And we now see a yellow light coming from Brokey's eyes. And when he opened them with killing intent, a strange symbol appeared engraved in his left eye. Suho received a new quest from the system. It was an urgent hunt quest where he had to eliminate Brokey the hyena. Biru was sad because he couldn't do anything to help with the fight. And besides this, he still needed to care for and carefully watch over the poor wolf pup. Now, instead of an eye mask, Suho was wearing a bandana. And we can see an intense face-off between the side of Iterum against the side of Shadows and Fangs. It was interesting for Suho to realize that the system referred to Brokey as a hyena. It seemed that this was precisely the fact from which the enemy's guild name was derived. While Brokey was walking towards Suho, Suho wondered if the guild's kidnapping of people had anything to do with Iterum. But Brokey suddenly looked at his men when they called him. They requested Brokey to free them so they could also help him in the fight. Suho prepared to attack and said he wouldn't just let that happen. But instead of freeing them, Brokey just opened his mouth extremely wide to eat all 6 of his guild members' heads simultaneously. Suho couldn't believe what he saw. Brokey explained that he did this because he was annoyed that his men thought he needed help to fight Suho. And now, the duel between Brokey and Suho with Raken's fang resumed. From Suho's very first slash attempt, Brokey managed to catch Raken's fang, and it quickly became a contest of strength even as Brokey's hand was getting injured. But because of Suho's anger at Brokey's merciless murders, he gained an advantage here. But this was only temporary because the reality was that Brokey was unfazed because he was confident, believing that the power of life and death over the weak belongs to the strong. He pushed Suho back strongly, and he flew far away, while Brokey was saying that the strong don't need any reason to do what they want. After Suho landed, he immediately became alert for Brokey's next attack. He avoided it, and even managed to injure Brokey in the elbow area. Their duel was very intense, and Suho's pressure to use his speed against Brokey's overwhelming strength was clearly visible. Next, Brokey planted one of his feet solidly on the ground and positioned his elbow to gain momentum for his next attack, which was an extremely powerful wide uppercut triple claw slash. But he was surprised because Suho still managed to dodge it, and now from above, he was falling towards Brokey with a downward diving slash. Brokey tried to block it using his right arm, so he was injured there. But even though Brokey was injured, he continued to taunt and show courage and grit. And after he mocked Raken's fang, it suddenly flew extremely fast using Suho's ruler's authority skill and deeply embedded itself in Brokey's back. Afterward, Suho used ruler's authority again to continuously rotate Raken's fang in Brokey's back like a drill. While Raken's fang was drilling into Brokey's back, it expressed extreme disappointment. It couldn't believe that Brokey had changed because it remembered that he used to swear loyalty and honor to Raken. Then, Brokey suddenly became quiet and questioned what Raken's fang said about honoring Raken. Next, Brokey's anger and strength suddenly amplified, and he disagreed with what Raken's fang said. He managed to pull Raken's fang from his back and slammed it with extreme force on the ground, shattering it into pieces. Brokey now admitted that he never respected Raken and just surrendered to Raken's strength at that time. He asked Raken's fang if he thought he would just continue with that weak kind of life. Suho shouted in extreme worry for Raken's fang. Then Suho suddenly received a punch to the stomach from Brokey, who told him he had no time to worry about others. Suho was hit hard, and the pain was so bad, he thought his bones would break. But whenever he thought of his father who might be currently fighting strong beings in another world, he gained resilience and courage to keep fighting. So now he summoned a shadow gauntlet and exchanged a barrage of punches with Brokey, while thinking that he shouldn't collapse here now. Biru was extremely worried for Suho, while Raken's fang had lost its glow and was just lying on the ground. But there was still red essence leaking out from Raken's fang's broken body, and this was the power of the Monarch of Fangs. Raken's fang sadly contemplated and reflected while thinking that he would just die, and the future, along with the future of the wolf pup descendant, now rested with Suho. He still wanted to fight but could do nothing anymore, until he saw the wolf pup, which despite being injured and weak, was still trying to stand strong. During the struggle of Suho and Brokey's duel, Suho suddenly received a powerful forearm smash to the nape that made him spit out blood. And because of this, the wolf pup's eyes suddenly flared up. Raken's fang realized that the Monarch of Fang's descendant was inspired by the fighting spirit Suho was showing. And because of this, Raken's fang had a strong power aura again, and he realized what the final thing he could do was. And that was to give all his remaining power to the Monarch of Fang's descendant. When the wolf pup received power from Raken's fang, its entire body flared up while its bandages all came off. Next, Brokey again launched a powerful strike that Suho managed to block, but the impact was so strong that it even crushed the truck Suho had crashed into. For some reason, Suho still managed to survive this, but he only had 21 HP left. He still tried to fight and still raised his fists, even though he was disappointed in himself because he thought he had gotten stronger by now. Brokey slowly walked towards him and even praised him because he managed to hold on for so long even though he was just a mere worm. But when Brokey launched his killing blow, Suho really doubted if he could win and survive the fight. Then we suddenly see the descendant of the Monarch of Fangs quickly jumping to the rescue and biting Brokey's arm to save Suho. Suho was puzzled because he didn't immediately recognize that this adult wolf creature was the wolf pup from earlier. Brokey also couldn't believe it when he saw the descendant in its new form, and he really felt the pain from its deep bite. The descendant carried a powerful aura, and even Suho couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was making an adult wolf growl. Then, the system suddenly sent a notice to Suho asking if he wanted to recruit Fang's descendant as a colleague. Suho still couldn't believe that the wolf pup from earlier was now an intimidating beast, and he also couldn't believe that he had the option to recruit it as a colleague. Brokey recognized his new wolf opponent and asked if it had absorbed the mana from Raken's fang. Suho was surprised when he heard Brokey's question, because he realized that Raken's Fang had sacrificed himself to save the descendant's life. Then, the system again notified Suho if he wanted to recruit Fang's descendant as a colleague. The descendant looked Suho in the eye as if waiting for him to accept his offer. Suho thought that since he had intended to cooperate with Raken's Fang from the beginning, he had no reason to refuse. So he chose the yes option. Immediately after Suho recruited the descendant, the two felt a surge of power and shared connection. Next, Suho felt a surge of information flowing into his mind. And this was a past memory from the descendant from the time Brokey told him about their defeat in the war against the Shadow Monarch. Brokey mentioned to the descendant that their world followed the rule of survival of the fittest. And while giving him head pats, he told him that because they were defeated, many things would be lost to them. So, he gave the wolf pup advice and said he should make sure to become strong so that Fang would prosper. The wolf pup was delighted while Brokey was patting him on the head. Then in the next scene, we suddenly see the wolf pup crying and stiff with extreme fear. And this was because they were visited by humanoid beings with crossed halos above their heads. They were the Iterum people, and they seemed to have easily subdued Brokey. Our poor wolf pup descendant could do nothing. Brokey just asked a female Iterum what they were and why they weren't killing him. But the woman carrying an Iterum baby ignored his question and just said he seemed like a useful monster. And he was exactly what she needed. Brokey was selected by the Iterum woman to have a yellow glowstone placed in his eye. Brokey didn't understand what was happening, but he couldn't stop the woman from doing what she wanted. Brokey and the wolf pup were panicking, but they both could do nothing but watch. Next, the woman addressed him as Hyena Brokey, and he bowed down to her. The Iterum woman told him that from now on, his duty was to capture live humans to send to them. The Iterum woman also said that the thing she put in his eye would help him become stronger. The wolf pup charged at the woman and barked in extreme anger. The wolf pup just cried when he saw Brokey suffering. Then, the wolf pup suddenly became afraid when he saw Brokey change, and his aura became extremely evil. The woman explained earlier that depending on the user, the Yellowstone could release a twisted version of the user's desires. Suho's face couldn't be described because of the memories he saw from Fang's descendant. Suho strongly suspected that the humanoids who planted something in Brokey's eye were the main culprits directly related to Iterum. Suho now understood that what Fang's descendant wanted wasn't revenge, but just to stop Brokey's rampage. In Suho's mind, he was really determined that he should defeat Brokey, especially since he was connected to Iterum. But the problem was, Suho's power wasn't enough to defeat Brokey in the fight. Then, Suho suddenly received a new quest from the system because of his recruitment of a colleague. Suho's reaction was one of great shock and disbelief when he saw the details of the quest notice. This quest required Suho to recruit each descendant of all 8 monarchs. And Fang's descendant was only the first one he had recruited as a colleague. Next, Suho received a bond skill connected to Fang's descendant, and this came from the bond they formed. Fang's descendant felt power flowing through his body because of this, and the same happened to Suho. After this, the two had such a bright aura that Brokey was blinded and had to shield his eyes. Even Biru couldn't believe what was happening. But he knew that Suho was experiencing a change that was different from what Sung Jinwoo experienced before. Then, even though Brokey didn't understand what was happening now, he still charged at Suho because he said he couldn't just sit tight and do nothing. He delivered an extremely powerful straight left punch that caused a strong impact where debris flew around. This caused thick smoke, and for the first time, we see the first ever skill that was created because of Suho's bond with Fang's descendant. When the smoke cleared, Brokey was surprised because Suho had managed to cleanly catch his fist. And we also see that Suho's hand now had long white nails. Besides this, his hair had also turned white and his hairstyle had changed. He also had a cross mark on his forehead. Apparently, the two descendants of the monarchs had fused, and this was their new form. It seems Suho could still use Shadow Gauntlet, but instead of a purple glow, it had become yellow. Suho's appearance wasn't surprised by his new skill. According to the status shown by the system, this was a bond skill called Beast Possession, and it was only at level 1 now. The mana cost of this skill was 1 per second, but because of Fang's descendant dwelling in Suho's body, it enhanced his physical body, including his senses that were heightened like a beast's. Brokey now used his right claw to attack Suho again, while not believing that Suho had managed to absorb Fang's descendant. But Suho's body felt so light, and he easily dodged Brokey's successive attacks. He also felt that his senses were even sharper now. He could also sense the optimal movements he needed to make to avoid danger. And after he dodged the slash barrage, he had an opening to give Brokey a tiptoe super kick to the chin. The hit was solid and Brokey's mouth bled while he was confused about how Suho suddenly became so strong, when just earlier he was just a pipsqueak. But now, Fang-infused Suho's appearance was very intimidating. Because of this, the yellow stone that the Iterum planted in Brokey's eye activated, because he wouldn't just lose easily. In Brokey's mind, he believed that if he lost, all important things to him would be gone. So Brokey still fought, and he released an intense straight right punch that was so strong and fast that Suho had to block it using his gauntlets. Biru noticed that Brokey's mana also suddenly had a significant increase, and it started when a weird halo with a cross suddenly appeared above his head. And while Brokey continued to throw punches, he shouted that he didn't know what Suho and Fang's descendant did, but he would still make sure that he would never be defeated by a human. According to Brokey, in the end, they still differed in the power of their origin species. Next, Brokey gave Suho a downward slash that was so strong that Suho skidded backward while the force destroyed the ground he was standing on. Brokey added that Suho shouldn't blame himself for his defeat, but the inferior species of humans. Next, the fists of the two collided, and this caused intense explosive pressure in the surrounding area of their duel. But after the impact occurred, Brokey's right hand was thrown backward and his arm twisted intensely because of the impact he received. It seemed Suho had won in their contest of strength. Brokey was just surprised because his arm didn't stop twisting until his bone was completely broken and his hand was destroyed. After this, a notice appeared for Suho saying he had learned a new skill, and this was unarmed combat, which was now only at level 1. According to the system, this passive skill had no mana cost. It gave Suho an astounding 33% increased damage dealt whenever he fought using only his body in hand-to-hand combat. Biru expressed disdain for Brokey because he had the audacity to look down on the human species right in front of the descendant of the Shadow Monarch. Because according to Biru, there was no higher species than the species of the Shadow Monarch. When Brokey heard what Biru said, he suddenly froze in fear, because only now did he realize that the human he was facing was also a descendant. It was too late before he knew that Suho was the son of the Shadow Monarch, because now Suho was delivering a powerful mana-infused high-altitude axe kick for him from the sky. Brokey could do nothing but accept this attack, which was so strong that his head was buried in the ground and the entire floor was destroyed. After a few moments of that night, because the intense fight was over, Suho returned to normal. The fusion of the two also defused and Fang's descendant also came out of Suho's body. It immediately approached Brokey, who was lying bloody on the ground. Brokey was almost unconscious, but instead of falling asleep, he was still trying to be aggressive and telling himself that he still needed to become stronger. Then Fang's descendant approached and licked Brokey on the head. And because of this, an outer shell layer in Brokey's left eye suddenly broke while he started crying, and saying he now remembered his true reason why he needed to become stronger. Rakan, the late monarch of Fangs, suddenly entered Brokey's mind. The real reason why he was angry was not because he was angry with Rakan, but because he was angry with himself for his failure to protect him. Because of this, Fang's descendant sympathized with Brokey's melancholy and howled into the night. In the end, Suho successfully defeated Brokey in the fight, and he even leveled up twice because of this. In the aftermath of the fight, we see Fang's descendants concerned for Brokey. Biru praised Suho for his victory. Then, Suho said something to him. Suho asked if Biru was sure about the Iterum energy he felt from Brokey. Suho explained that he saw something from Fang's descendants' memories earlier that might be related to this. Suho told Biru that he saw hunters from Iterum who entered the dungeon where Brokey and the wolf pup were hiding. Then they put something in Brokey's eye, and Suho was really wondering what their purpose was in attacking Brokey. Biru said that it was unlikely that the hunters Suho saw were from Iterum, because the real Iterum were outer gods who didn't like to act for themselves. They were the type who always send apostles to mess with causality. But there was a high chance that the hunters he saw were related to the invasion happening in the world. So this meant that the apostles of Iterum were already here on Earth. Suho was sad because the information he obtained was still very limited. He was worried that if he lost the trail he had on Iterum, his dreamed family reunion might take even longer. But he was surprised when Biru told him that there was a way to get information. According to Biru, he had a bright idea. He could devour Broki's corpse so that his memories about Iterum would go to him. And when he did this, he would also recover his mana at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. Suho just asked about Biru's suggestion because he didn't know that Biru had this kind of ability. Then Suho looked at Broki again. He also saw Fang's descendant who was sad because he would no longer be with Broki again. Suho asked Fang's descendant if he wanted to come with him and Biru because he had a place he wanted to introduce to him. And in response, Fang's descendant first looked Suho in the eye as if still shy. Suho just smiled at him. Then the wolf suddenly became affectionate towards Suho and licked him on the cheek. After this, Suho used the shadow key to open a portal that would serve as a shortcut for them to get home quickly. But before they continued with Fang's descendant, he first entrusted Broki to Biru. While praising Suho again, Biru stayed behind first to do what he needed to do. When our party exited the other end of the portal, we went to an ominous city ruins surrounded by dark rock spikes. Biru just asked Suho why he brought them to this dungeon instead of home. Suho said he just wanted to give Fang's descendant a place to live. Biru wondered why Suho chose the Shadow Dungeon as the place. Suho explained that he had already established an alliance with Fang's descendant and he really just pitied him because he no longer had a guardian and his sanctuary was also destroyed. Then, Suho suddenly received an alert notice saying that Fang's heir was requesting to be named by Suho. It barked in agreement, and Suho wondered why this was what Fang's heir wanted. Suho thought deeply, and in the end, he decided to name Fang's descendant Gray because this was the color of his fur. Biru was suddenly disappointed and thought that Suho was just as bad as his father in giving names. Gray was very happy to receive a name from Suho. We can now see in his status that his relationship with Suho was teammate, and his trust level was respect. Suho designated the forest part of the Shadow Dungeon as Fang's territory, and he entrusted Gray with its care and use. Gray quickly ran and started to go around his new territory. The system confirmed that the forest part of the Shadow Dungeon had been designated as Fang's territory, and its owner was Gray. Suho asked Biru what he thought Gray could eat. Biru said that because he came from Fang's bloodline, it seemed he could eat living organisms and monsters. Suho was happy with the answer he heard from Biru. And because Suho knew there were still some monsters here in the forest that he hadn't killed, he planned to just entrust Gray with the task of cleaning up the place. Gray's battle-ready face was extremely fierce, and he easily hunted the goblin fighters that remained in his forest. Suho was very happy to watch Gray's impressive movements in fighting, and he told Biru that he would sort out the things he got this time around. Suho got a new title, Wolf Slaughterer, along with 5 ability points. His new title included a plus 40% buff for all stats whenever he fought beast-type monsters. Suho just scratched his head because he was confused about why his new title was Wolf Slaughterer when Broki was a hyena. Because of this, Biru just advised him to overlook the trivial details. Moving on, Suho asked Biru's opinion about his new long-term quest to find all the Monarch heirs. Biru said the Shadow Monarch never received this kind of quest from the system. Biru explained that the level-up system that Sung Jinwoo made for him was already a revised version that removed the ill intentions from the original designer. Suho asked what those ill intentions were. Biru told Suho that the architect's original design of the system had a goal to forcefully strengthen Sung Jinwoo to prepare his body to become a vessel for the Shadow Monarch. And once that was achieved, the system was designed to destroy Sung Jinwoo's soul. But even so, Jinwoo managed to go against the system's goal. He killed the architect, and instead of Ashborn being reincarnated, Sung Jinwoo was the one who replaced him as the Shadow Monarch himself. The Shadow Monarch became a great being who no longer needed to level up. Suho asked Biru if the system also planned to make him a Shadow Monarch. But that wasn't the case, said Biru. Only one Shadow Monarch could exist in the world. Biru believed that the system would adapt for Suho in whatever he needed to do to advance and level up. Whatever new functions appeared from the system would surely be here to guide Suho and help him. Because of this, Suho opened his status window. He checked it, and saw that he hadn't distributed his newly acquired 5 ability points yet. Then he mentioned to Biru that he now understood why his job class status still said none. He also realized how far his stats had increased since he was only level 1, and how many useful skills he had gained now. But he knew in himself that he was still weak compared to what happened in his last fight. If it weren't for Gray and their bond skill, he would surely have been defeated by Brokey. Suho gave Biru a thumbs up and thought that if his goals were in line with the system, he would follow the quests it gave him. He hoped he would see his parents again eventually. When Suho came down from the tree, he suddenly remembered that Biru should have new information he got from Brokey's memories, so he asked him about it. Biru said he tried to gather information about Iterum, but the Iterum apostles did no brainwashing to Brokey. Suho was disappointed because he didn't get even a single clue, but Biru told him that he found other memories, but about humans. And this was about the Hyena Guild's kidnapping operations. Suho was surprised to learn from Biru that the Hyena Guild was just a branch made for Brokey, and the humans they kidnapped were sent to the main guild named Grim Reaper. In Biru's opinion, if they investigated the Grim Reaper Guild, there was a high possibility that they would find information about Iterum from there. Meanwhile, inside the Grim Reaper Guild tower, an executive received a call. He answered it, and the caller's name was Taegyu. The executive asked him why he didn't go to Southeast Asia to help with the raid there. Taegyu answered and said that wasn't what was important now. Because of the new news article, Taegyu knew that the executive was the one behind the Hyena Guild incident. The executive just played dumb about it. Taegyu became angry with the executive, Lee Min-sung, because he was still changing the topic of the conversation and he was very unpleasant to talk to. Taegyu told Min-sung that he knew he had an illegal commission with the Hyena Guild and the association would figure it out too. Taegyu added that if the authorities asked him, he couldn't do anything for Min-sung, even if his lawyers and the association helped him. Taegyu warned Min-sung not to be overconfident, because even though the country's laws were weak, it still wasn't easy to gamble with the chairman of the association. So he told Min-sung that he should wrap things up before he returned to Korea. Min-sung was extremely resentful towards Taegyu, and he was very angry with how he treated him. He said Taegyu used to be just his personal driver, but everything changed, and he became arrogant when he awakened as an S rank. In extreme anger, he hit his table and completely destroyed it. Min-sung was also not happy with the fact that all he knew about the man who destroyed the Hyena Guild was that he was a young hunter wearing a black mask. He just said he had no time to think about a person he didn't even know who, and he just pulled out something from his coat. It was a glass ball with blue powder inside, and according to Min-sung, this was the more important thing he needed to focus on. This is Lee Min-sung, the vice CEO of the Grim Reaper Guild. He is an A-rank hunter, and this ball he was holding is the awakening stimulant named Stardust. He hoped he would be successful with his underground side business using this product, and he also hoped that he would gain everyone's respect because of this. In the next scene, Biru praised Gray because he was getting better at fighting, and he told him to just continue growing stronger to protect his young monarch. After that, he pushed him again to eat as much as he wanted while calling him Growl, which left Suho speechless and asked how Gray's name became Growl. He brushed it off quickly and said that even so, he was happy that he seemed to be adapting faster than he expected. Suddenly, an alert tab appeared in front of him that Gray had gained a certain amount of experience from hunting monsters and had reached the target, so now he could share 50% of what he obtained. Suho was puzzled by this and immediately asked Biru if such a system existed previously, to which Biru replied that he wasn't sure, but he thought it was similar to when Shadow Soldiers hunted and the experience they gained went to the Shadow Monarch. It seemed like a party system in a game where experience was divided, said Suho. Even though he only got 50% from this, it was still better that he could gain experience automatically. If that's the case, said Biru, they should just let Gray hunt in the Shadow Dungeon, which caught his attention. After that, another alert tab appeared saying that because Suho had killed a certain number of monsters inside the Shadow Dungeon, he had fulfilled a quest requirement. The daily quest Shadow Dungeon cleanup appeared here, where Suho and his team needed to kill 100 goblins, 10 goblin commanders, and 1 goblin centurion. Suho was puzzled at first when he read this. He said that if this was a quest, there would surely be rewards, and because it was called a daily quest, he thought he could get rewards from this every day, to which Biru commented that it seemed the system wanted him to make this place his permanent territory. Suho lost interest because he would need to hunt so many goblins in the vastness of this place, but he suddenly remembered something, so he opened his inventory. He brought out the horn flute he got from the goblin centurion that could summon goblin subordinates. He immediately used it, and because of that, it produced a sound that attracted goblins in the vicinity, so before long, goblins emerged from the woods and began to rush towards them. Suho was pleased that his assumption was correct, and Biru praised him by calling him smart because he even thought of that. Next, Suho prepared his hand, and after building momentum, he gave a solid right straight to a goblin that rushed at him. After that, using his left, he punched another goblin in the face, and due to the strength of the shockwave from his punch, several other enemies were also thrown away. He commented in his mind that it was so boring to fight goblins now. He also thought that since he needed to kill so many of them, he decided to use the horn flute 2 more times to call more goblins. Before long, numerous monsters gathered in front of him, while he was just waiting for them to charge. After that, he used his shadow extraction to create shadow soldiers from some goblins he had killed there, and before long, the 2 teams began to charge at each other. They each had their targets while eliminating these monsters, and before long, he reached the required number of killed goblins, and even exceeded it. Due to the number and fatigue from fighting nonstop for 3 hours, Gray lay down on the ground. Suho noticed that his daily quest was completed and the reward had arrived, but he seemed to notice something in the Quest Alert tab, which made Biru ask if there was a problem. He pointed out that the numbers here were strange because the quest was already completed, but the number of kills he had made was still increasing. Before long, he realized something here and said that if the count here continued to rise, there was probably a hidden something in this quest. He decided to take this chance and see when the counter would stop, which surprised and shocked Gray. After some time, Suho and his team managed to double the required number for the daily quest, but because of that, Gray seemed to have lost his soul from extreme fatigue. The notification came again that they had completed the quest, so Suho was pleased that there really was something hidden here. He first looked at the rewards, and it said here that he would get status recovery, plus 3 ability points, and he could choose either random blessed box or random cursed box. After that, he accepted the first reward, so his condition began to recover perfectly, just like when he leveled up. He also pointed out here that if he chose to reserve this reward, it could be an easy way for him to recover if he got injured in the middle of a battle. After that, he also accepted the second one, so he now had 8 points that he could put into his stats. He said here that it would become harder to get points as he leveled up, so he could use this daily quest to become stronger every day. When he was about to take the last reward, he saw that the random blessed box would give him an item that he wanted, while the random cursed box would give him an item that he needed. He thought about this and commented that what he wanted was too vague, and at present, he needed many different things. Before long, he chose the random cursed box, and what it gave him was Vulcan's horn. It was a gauntlet that gave plus 40 attack power to the wearer, had an effect called Desire for Destruction that gave an increase in physical damage of 30%, an effect called Demon Predator where if he devoured demon souls, the authority of Vulcan would become stronger. Suho commented here that he couldn't always make weapons out of shadow soldiers, so he wanted a separate weapon. Fortunately, what he got here was good. He immediately wore the Vulcan's horn, and when he read its effects, he wondered if all of that meant that the more demons he killed, the higher this physical damage increase of 30% would get. When he tried to use it, he noticed that it was a bit heavy for him, so he decided to put his remaining 8 stat points into his strength. Now, he added, he just needed to hunt demons and grow his weapons. Suddenly, a quest notice appeared that there was a change in the condition of his teammate, where Gray's trust level in him had changed from respect to fear, and it turned out this was because he was afraid that he might make him work again without rest. Biru pointed out that Gray was not a shadow soldier with infinite stamina, so here he noticed his shortcoming and apologized for it. He said they should just rest for today, and he still had something to do outside anyway. After leaving the shadow dungeon, Suho asked Biru if the people they talked to earlier said that the name of the guild related to the Hyena Guild was Grim Reaper, to which Biru agreed. While he was thinking about where he should start investigating, his cell phone rang. When he looked at it, he saw his instructor asking for help. In the next scene, they went to Seoul Station Field, which was now a danger zone. Dogyen got his attention and immediately thanked him for coming. He explained that he was supposed to go into a dungeon today, but the entire collecting team ghosted him. He asked if none of them showed up there to work, to which he agreed. He irritably called them assholes, and they surely all went somewhere together. So Suho calmed him down and said he would help him. Because of that, Dogyeon was happy and said he was the best and gave him protective clothing, which puzzled him. Dogyeon explained that working as a collector was more dangerous than being an excavator, so they really needed to wear protective clothing. The excavating team only entered when the hunt was done, but the collecting team needed to collect items that came from monsters killed by the strike team, so they needed to follow them. It was just in case there was an unforeseen monster ambush, and also because they could be injured by thorns or scales of monster corpses. When Suho put on those clothes, he commented that was the reason why protective clothing was needed. Before long, the strike team arrived there, and one of them seemed irritated that there were only 2 of them in the collection team. Dogyeon apologized and explained that the collection team members who were supposed to come suddenly disappeared, to which the hunter said that they had a contract. So what kind of irresponsible situation was this? He then asked if they know how much the Grim Reaper Guild paid for the entrance ticket of this dungeon. The hunter then threatened them by saying that if they dare lag behind, he'll send an official complaint against them to the association and he'll make sure they never get to do collection work again. To which Dogyeon respectfully said that they understood and would ensure they worked hard, so he should trust them. This hunter left their faces, so Dogyeon immediately cried to Suho that he wasn't the collection team leader, but he was the one being scolded there, and he asked Suho to use his summons to help. Suho stared at the strike team that got angry at them, and he saw that it had 4D rank magic type hunters, 5D rank combat type hunters, and 1C rank healer. It seemed that the man who scolded them was the healer and the leader of that strike team. He remembered here the random cursed box that said it would give him what he needed, his acquisition of the weapon that devoured demons that came out of it called Vulcan's Horn, the timely coincidence of Instructor M, and the field-type dungeon owned by the Grim Reaper Guild. If all of these were not a simple coincidence, he said he didn't know what was. While they were entering the dungeon, we went to inside Soul Station Field, and here we were shown a human burning with blue fire like the infection from the Mistburn monster, and 3 beings that looked like demons were watching it while it was losing its life. Suho commented again that he felt like something dangerous was going to happen to them.